Remix. 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 Remix.
Good morning, brother.
Yo, good morning.
Grand Rising.
Peace to you.
Peace be upon you as well. How you doing?
All right, man. Tired. Had a long night. How you feeling?
I'm all right. I'm good. No long night, but a long week, and it's still not over, you know? But I love Fridays. I love our infamous chat. Shout out Chitty Maka, Latif. Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Shout out Yagichi, cousin.
843. What going on? Yeah.
Good morning, brother Jamil. How you doing? How's everyone doing today?
Leah.
We're missing our star. Don't worry. I think she's on the way.
Yeah, man. She down there in Charleston acting a fool down there, man. Charleston and Buford.
Tearing the city up.
Yeah, tell her nothing now. Hey, when she get on here, we're gonna have to start talking Geechee Gullah to her, because she ain't from Memphis no more.
Okay.
Yeah. We took her. That's our turn now.
So Yagichi's story, the YouTube or the audiobook from last week that Geechee read, children's story about the black ants, is in the show description. It's been updated. So as always, links to all our stories, campaigns, everything like that in the show description. And then if you haven't checked out last week's interview, it was about the Black Bookstore documentary that's coming out. So check it out and support a Black bookstore near you.
Yeah, we teeth them. We teeth them. We teeth from that. Memphis and Charleston. I guess between Ball and G and Project Pat, it might be. We might have took them too.
Yeah, hey man, it's all the South to me. I'm a pan-Southist. I think we all
Republica New Pan South Africanness.
Yes. What I was able to ask Baba AK and RNA Elder about why Florida was not included in the Black Belt thesis. Well, not the Black Belt thesis, but in their Republic of New Africa, which is in the Black Belt. And he had an answer for me, which I respected. It was like, we always gave the indigenous land claim to Florida more respect. And so that might have been why. So I hear that, but I guess because of the Seminole Wars, which were
Africans. Oh, okay.
The Africans and the indigenous, because Seminole is an Afro-indigenous tribe, and although some of their leadership, there were some problems with anti-blackness now in terms of tribal membership and things like that. That is not to deny the history where it was enslaved Africans who escaped and became Maroons, and then Creek Indians who became the Cimarrones or the Seminoles. But I get it. I still got some questions because there's indigenous people everywhere. So I don't know. I feel like we were just overlooked a little bit, but I don't hold it against them.
Yeah, I always question people who advocate for reparations. They don't have a really good grasp on the Black Belt thesis and some of those regions, especially because of the economic viability of those regions. If we were to take that group, and then I don't know about the indigenous conversation either, but sometimes I feel like people who have reparation conversations, that's not where they just straight cash payment or whatever they saying, acknowledgement.
Yeah, yeah, that reparations conversation always needs to be sharpened. You know how people talk about the Malcolm X movie was imperfect, but it exposed me to the argument and da 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 da. And our whole point is that might happen for a few individuals, but on the
Spike Lee.
yeah, so a lot of people will say that. Jared gets it a
Despite.
lot when he
I like the word
critiques it.
despite.
Despite, yeah,
I
exactly.
was
Despite,
politicized despite how bad that movie was.
well, the argument is that if you have no exposure at all, it should expose you to it. And folks like your doctor on the platform has said that you should read the book after it, or we should make it so that it's a campaign to read the book after the movie, yada yada, just so you can learn more. I think our argument is it's too much of a distortion in the first place, and that
Half
most
truth.
people are not going to do it. Exactly, a half truth more dangerous than a full lie. Well, for me, something similar happened with Ta-Nehisi Coates' A Case for Reparations, where that was my first read because I said the immediate cracker thing, how will we pay for it? Too much time has passed, blah blah blah. Just stuff I've been taught, not anything that I'd actually studied myself or whatever. So when I read Coates' article, A Case for Reparations, it actually did convince me and open my eyes up. Now, years later, of course, I found out that he was just copying in Cobra's work bar for bar, their whole flow. That I met sisters who had actually been doing reparations organizing for years, right? Because Coates did the article, but as far as I know, he ain't organized for that shit since. I think he testifies on some like the HR 40 maybe congressional testimony, but that's not organizing for it. But yeah, it was really helpful for me, actually. Similar like how the Malcolm X movie is very flawed, but some people will say that it got them on the right path. So, that it wasn't perfect, but it did open me up.
Lived experience can't be analysis. Shout out to Ricky.
Exactly. So I do not say that you have to learn through Ta-Nehisi Coates about reparations. I would say stick to in Cobra, stick to some of the longtime organizers who put that together. But yeah, it that was helpful. He answers a lot of the common discussion about it should only be a cash payment or blah blah blah, where he talks about housing. He expands it beyond chattel slavery, which I appreciated. But I got this gift from Baba Sundiata that is a book that I've gone through that I think is really good on this subject.
Boy, what the
superior to
hell?
the article.
Is that Salise?
Do you know the person on the cover?
Oh no, that's not her. God, I was like, God damn, what was Salise?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Speaking of again, organizers.
She looked like Salise from Charles and Land. God damn. Okay, Lord Jesus.
But this book, Reparations or Reparatory Justice, Past, Present, and Future, is edited by Baba Sundiata. Check out Real Talk. He interviewed Two Black yesterday. It was a dope conversation. Mary Frances Berry and VP Franklin. So in it, they talk about previous cases for reparations, modern attempts like tracing the lineage, different types for different things, because it doesn't have to just be for chattel slavery. The U.S. has been up to no good for quite some time when it comes to Black people. So yeah, definitely wanted to shout that out. Hey, look at our co-host in the chat. Morning, Amber.
She in the wrong place at the wrong time. Can't get right. She ain't want to be right. That's what they say. Can't get right because she ain't want to be right.
Geechee knows everybody. That's what I'm saying. You probably still have met that person on the cover.
I mean, it's like the world ain't that big now. Y'all don't do me like that. The world is very small. and we get into the age where all the people we know grow up and do something that they ain't supposed to be doing. So it's hard to not know people at this point.
Who is it? Did George Jackson say the left is small and like the truly anti-imperialist left is microscopic? And when he was talking about the U.S. context, I think that was him. I don't want to misattribute it. Yo, I'm glad somebody recognized this. Absolutely. This is the Puerto Rican independence flag. That's how you notice the blue, the light blue. I had somebody joke if that was a U.S. flag behind me. Absolutely not.
So here's an interesting thing. So I was about to bring up something. And the fact that the lady looked like Celeste, I could show you a picture of her and or a video of her and Richard. But it's gonna connect me to something else of experience I had in Pittsburgh neighborhood yesterday. But let me go. So this some. So I don't know if y'all know about Gullah Geechee Hoodoo. But
He heard my cry.
and then Richard is doing some. Well, I'm sorry, his name not Richard, but he doing some rap music. But so yesterday I went to a plant-based zoo, and it's a Haitian vegan restaurant in Pittsburgh neighborhood. And me and him been talking, Emmanuel, about like he has all equipments to do documentary. Like he's into documentary. He actually from Miami. He actually used to be in Miami when he moved from Haiti. Yeah, he had a studio next to DJ Khaled's studio in some type of building with a bunch of studios. It was weird, but he wanted to do some documentary, but I already wanted to do some documentary on the elders, but then I also wanted to do something with the businesses in Pittsburgh neighborhood. And I just asked him, about his story. He ended up saying like Aristide was good, but then he like got corrupted, and then I think he was saying like the one I can't remember the guy name. I'll say it in a second. But basically, towards the end, as a business owner, I asked him like, "Yo, could you give me your definition of like capitalism, socialism, or worker cooperative?" And he just couldn't get like he couldn't like he kept asking me like, well, what is it? And I'm like, well, there's probably no official definition because everybody would like most people can't answer the question. Some of your most money rich black folks can't answer the question. So yeah, I thought it's always interesting how even when you say something like somebody, if what's that boy name? Paul Coates' son, Ta-Nehisi. If Ta-Nehisi says reparations, you can learn the words, the name from it, but that don't mean he taught you anything about reparation. You probably you can listen to everything he's saying, still walk away and not know anything about or make any coherent comments about reparation. But,
yeah, to be fair, because he was using the template laid out by Encobra, I actually did, I think, get a general idea, but I agree. I was more filling in my own definition, like I was, because he gave some ideas, because he talked about housing injustice, for example, in the Baltimore area. I believe it was Baltimore. I got to check because I haven't read that article in a long time. And so he was, saying that reparations doesn't have to be a check, although he's not opposed to checks. So he doesn't foreclose opportunity. So in my mind, I'm still like, yeah, people should be paid. But then ideas in my head were like, okay, so you just need to build housing for people for free. I think the communist in me was able to figure out the solutions a little bit just based on how the problem was outlined. But I agree. It could be a lot clearer, and it is not in a way it should be. So,
yeah.
And I was going to ask you, although we are not at our check-in question, so we will have the check-in question for the chat shortly. Once our star arrives, we're just here to warm up.
The pips on we here by ourselves. And listen, this is the first time. That's the first time the curtain opened and it was only the pips on the stage. Everybody's like, so be the pips.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna ask, do you have a definition for capitalism, though? A short one, because this become the thing, right? People ask us, how do you define some of these revolutionary terms? And people struggle, right? So I was gonna ask if somebody asks you, and let's give, I hate that like somebody, because depending on who asks me, I'll adjust my definition. So let's say one of your students at Morehouse that comes from Boyce Watkins' class, and they walk up to you and they say, Geechee, Boyce taught me so I need some financial literacy and all that, but what is capitalism? I want to know the definition. How would you explain that to them?
So I was trying to see, I posted something a while, and I posted in Gullah Geechee and English, and I think I even have it on one of my shirts, but pretty much it's I would say like it's a social and political war tactic where a few people owns the means of productions, and the majority of workers that they exploit have to trade their talents and labor for a small percentage of that thing. and kind of what I was explaining to the brother last night, like, you know, if you have somebody who owns land and they produce and have access control of seeds, the land, and they sell watermelon, that will be the capitalist. You buying the watermelons and making smoothie juices with sea moss, you're not a capitalist. And so the person who has the means of production, the very few have means of production, and yeah, they exploit the labor of the worker in multiple ways. And then there's like a buffer class that not necessarily capitalists, they side with the capitalists, but they have an elevated position from the worker. So I think that's how I would explain it.
Got you. So usually when I've seen that form of explanation, the next question, the follow-up is, what is means of production? So could you help the people with that one too?
Yeah. So so again, the example with the watermelons, like if you have control of the seeds, you have the land, and you can produce on the land, and normally you have workers on the land working, planting the seeds, tilling, pulling the weeds or whatever. So how things are produced, the raw materials, and or being able to extract the raw material in an exploitive way, right? So you could go there and take all of the people's cobalt and end up producing it and send it to your refineries or whatever and produce something. So the means of production is being able to control material resources and produce at your will without so many additions from other people, whatever, or things from other people. So like you could literally produce it on your own. So again, everybody's selling shea butters. If you had the ability to have the shea nut tree and thousands of shea nut trees on thousands and thousands of acres, like then now you would be owning the means to production, especially if you also have the factory to produce the shea nut and all those other things. So the finished product, like being control of the finished product.
I like that. You know what I see is it still needs at least two steps. I think what ends up happening with this definition, and that's fine, honestly, but it's not one that I think we can cleanly be like, you just say this one and it makes sense because it's a system. It's not that simple. Yeah. I think you say one thing and then it inspires more and more questions, but I've never seen anybody satisfactorily define it in just one step. And I don't think that's a sign that we're not making it plain, because I've heard that critique, like, you got to make it plain for the people. I think your explanation was very plain. I just think it's not something you could just say in a one-liner. I actually think that's part of the conversation.
Yeah, but I think that's anywhere. Like if I tell you to explain dispensation, like you won't, you might be like, I don't know, rule, but then that's not going to explain anything. So it's like I don't think any complex systems have simple answers or simple responses to it. It's just, that would be weird. So I like those people, those are the same people who be like, well, what is the solution? What is the answer? Like, what would she do? And I'm like, I'm not gonna give anybody a solution who can't clearly articulate the problem, because it doesn't make sense. And in fact, it's not possible to give you a solution. We can assess the problem and collectively develop a solution or try out other solutions. But I don't like to spend too much time with people who don't have an answer, but then want you to answer in a specific way. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? So
I know somebody's got the answers. I know somebody asked, what would she do? So let's bring to the stage co-host Amber.
Hey, what's going on,
guys?
No. You done been in Charleston for 2 damn days. What going on? What yes?
What going?
There we go. I'll take them all day.
That's a little more Miami, but we'll take it.
We'll take it. It all mix up. You all mix it. How you feeling?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm fine. I'm sorry that I can't connect on my computer. Like, it's just loading and loading and loading, and it won't work.
Even that hotel Wi-Fi, it's all good.
I mean, it worked fine for everything else. I've been streaming and everything. That's why I'm so confused.
That hotel Wi-Fi always plays games with me. But we don't have you for long, so let's see. Go ahead. No, go
What
ahead.
did
Pull up
Dre
Dre's
say?
card.
Everybody have a plan till they get punched in the mouth. It's the equivalent to game planning for a fight. A lot of people can tell you who they will beat up or whatever, but they can't tell you how they won't get their ass whipped outside of fantasy. Yeah.
Leah says the means of production are items and tools needed to produce the final products, the commodities. Absolutely. They're also just the items and tools we need to produce what's necessary for society. I like to think of it that way because when people think about those things, I talk about in this era, the internet and electricity, right? Those are forms of means of production in this place. Who controls electricity? And as I think mentioned last show, I grew up thinking Florida Power and Light was a government agency because I didn't think it was possible that one private company, could own something like electricity for an entire state. I thought that was insane. But then he learned, oh no, it's not just Florida Power and Light. There's Georgia Power and
It's
Light.
because it is insane.
It is insane. So yeah, that's how I think of means of production is you control the tools, the technology necessary to make what society needs. And part of that is land. So when Geechee's talking about shea butter, you control the land that says these are where the palm trees and whatnot can grow, the palm nut trees and things like that. So I also have we have our people going through what's called a crow reader, which is like a codification kind of process where you're studying more intensive texts if you're going to be in leadership in our org. And we have a field assignment, and one of them is to go into your neighborhood and look at private property, because that's another term that gets thrown around a lot. The means of production become private property, and people are like, is that my toothbrush?
It's different in personal property.
And I'm like, nah, go in your neighborhood. Go in your neighborhood and find me a no trespassing sign or find me private property. When you go find pictures of that, and I'm in Miami, so I love the examples, it's like a beach. A beach says private property on it. That's not like something small like your suitcase or whatever. An entire strip of land with
How they
beautiful
own the
sand.
beach?
Exactly. That's what I want people to think of. So that's why we use that field assignment, which is like
And they just be
find
putting them
private
signs, so they
property.
don't even be owning that shit.
Yep.
But I would think that private property speaks to the economic viability of something. So it's like if something that's public, the wealth and the resources produced of it is owned and supposedly controlled by the public. Something that's private, there's probably like one or a few people who elitely control it. So I think people misunderstand private and personal property when they're like, "Oh, the government gonna come take off." Like, no, you can still have your personal property, but industrial work and productions, it being public, meaning it's accessible to the public. Just like when you nationalize a school, publicize a business, whatever. So, yeah.
I love Dre's example here. The OSU golf course is private property. My golf clubs are personal property. Yeah, that's a good example. I like that distinction. And I'll add that this is important as a distinction, but what my comrade pointed out in our last wartime when he's talking about the origins of private property is that in U.S. common law, they actually kind of blurred these things because of chattel slavery. So even the legal basis for personal property and private property in the U.S., which was a capitalist enterprise from the beginning, is blurred because your slaves were considered personal private property. So it's actually very interesting from a legal perspective to look up like common law and how that distinction isn't super clear. Exactly. So private property, means of production. Our ancestors, were means of production as well, and labor. So that was always
Which is something I've been learning about while I was in South Carolina. Well, I was in the Low Country, but while I was in the Low Country.
Really?
Oh yes, you had some. Mitchellville,
yeah.
and I learned about contraband of war and like how slaves were considered contraband of war.
Interesting. Say more.
That's all I had. That was me more.
Well, you had something that's relevant to one of our stories today, some soil, so we can get into that in a little bit. But no, I was just
Oh yeah, I
curious
did
what
get
else
some
you saw
soil.
with that
I
land.
went to most places in the low countryside. I went to Charleston, and I went to Beaufort to go to the Combahee River, and then I went to St. Helena, and then I went to Hilton Head, and then I went to Bluffton, and then I came back to Charleston.
Geechee, did you do the right
It was like
tour?
a like history beach go tour.
Is that me
Uh,
breaking up or y'all breaking up?
I think that was Amber breaking up just a little bit, but I think I heard the end of that one.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
I
did
said
you
it's like
connect
a
with
Black History tour.
did you
Yeah, it
connect
looks
with
like there's two Amber cams now. Let's see if we can. Is this the right camera?
the other one is the better one.
Okay.
Ain't moving.
Yeah,
Is
I
Yeah.
Amber
just joined
back?
on the computer so I could see the chat.
Oh.
Gotcha. Okay.
You get to connect with BJ, get any food?
We went to my Daisy's porch. I talked to him. I interviewed him and like got some clips of him talking about some different stuff that I'm gonna use. And we talked about Gullah Geechee food, like what's the most popular here, and like how everything is like based off of a rice dish because of the rice farms and like rice plantations and stuff. And then
Carolina Gold.
a
Yeah.
lot of what?
Carolina
Carolina Gold.
Gold.
Oh yeah,
The Africans brought the Carolina Gold over here.
yeah. So I
That's good.
talked to them a little bit, and then I talked to Dr. Toure, who's a really really cool like
Historic.
historian, African American like professor. Like he teaches African American history. He taught for a while and criminal justice something. I don't know. He also act a fucking fool. And we was having
In a
fun.
good
He's
way?
hilarious. Yes, he's
Okay.
just fucking hilarious, bro. He's just
Yeah,
funny. But also he's just like a
he
he
goofy. He
funny
real goofy.
too.
Yeah.
He called BJ talking about some BJ, are you still coming up here? Cause Amber over here choking me out. And if you don't get up here, I might not make it, brother. I was like, you're so
Yeah,
funny,
nah,
bro.
he like to joke all the damn time. You get some red rice?
Yeah, I did get some red rice.
All right, now them boys say something about the red rice now. You know now.
I went to Gullah Grub and I got red rice.
You
Oh
know
yeah.
now. You know what they say about the red rice? I ain't gonna tell you.
No. What'd they say?
There's a way how you keep there's a hoodoo practice of how you make the man make sure he like you and he stay with you forever. You add a
Oh, with the
special
red
ingredient.
rice.
Oh, is it that
Oh,
ingredient?
I do know about that one.
That's so funny. Pan Africanism, Geechee. There's other That's so
Yeah,
interesting that exists in that culture as well. Okay, yeah, I've heard of this voodoo
I have heard of it
before.
too. Also, I saw brother Jamil say hey me in the chat. Alaikum salam, brother Jamil. We hung out before I went to South Carolina because he was in Memphis and it was really fun. Brother Jamil is just such a wealth of like knowledge and wisdom.
Yes. Oh man, it's in New Orleans too. The
Oh
root
yeah.
for the practice. The
But I mean
practice
y'all,
is in New
y'all
Orleans.
Y'all,
Hmm.
y'all know good and well, most of them Africans, wherever you at in DC, New York, Memphis, you had to come to one of them ports, right? And it's Memphis and Charleston, so them things they travel, and who
That's what Dr.
knows?
Torrey was telling me about, like how like all those islands and stuff are connected together because they were all those main ports.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And there's
But I
parts of
also
Carolina. Good. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. You said parts of South
I was
Carolina.
parts of Carolina actually used to be considered part of Spanish Florida when the colonizers first came. So again, Florida is the south part, 255 square
Or,
kilometers.
Oh
or,
man.
or
To
the
the
Gullah Corridor reached to North Florida, or
That
I
makes
mean,
more
whatever you
sense.
want to say. On the map, the colonizers drew up. It said Florida and Carolina was in there.
yeah,
But
I
anyway,
feel like the Gullah corridor makes more sense. I don't know.
yeah. I mean,
And then I was
or
looking, Dr. Torrey had me looking at a damn map because I'm trying to figure out. I said, what you mean going to Savannah? Like, how far is that? I didn't realize they were so close to each other. They're all like
yeah,
very
it's Savannah's Little Charleston. It's a little version of Charleston.
That's interesting. And
Shout
we were
out the
talking about the
continent
boat
too.
thing. Yeah, there's good red rice in Ghana. I had some when I was in Accra. We were talking about how like it takes so long to get to places by car, but like people will take boats and it takes no time. And I was like, yeah, wish I had a boat.
That actually sounds really fun.
I mean,
To
you did get some boat dialectics. You talked about Robert Smalls. I don't know
Hmm.
if Tori get into Roberts and the suggestion from he could have learned Garvey could have learned a few things from Robert Smalls, but he was just a little bit too arrogant. Somebody said. I don't know who said it.
I could believe that. We talked about that. We went to Mitchellville. Because I mean, also I didn't understand like the ties, like the close ties of like the Civil War stuff. I didn't understand because I don't pay attention to stuff like that. I don't like America, so I'm not paying attention to like things about the revolution. Like I don't care for real. But they were just explaining to me like how the Civil War was like came to a head there, and that's why there were all these free slaves in Mitchellville because they were considered contraband of war. And when they were showing me how close like the Union soldiers were to the Mitchellville like shore, it was literally like 20 feet. Like this is the Union soldiers in the bank by the Atlantic Ocean, and then this is Mitchellville, and it's probably like a 15-minute walk. But you gotta go across it like a marsh. And I was like, that's insane. Cause that's very close. So that
it
mean y'all
is
was that
close.
close and it still took y'all that long to kill all them niggas? That's so crazy.
There you go.
True.
I'm just saying. But I love how there's so much history of liberation in the low country, like Harriet Tubman freeing all them slaves on the Combahee River and Robert Smalls, shit like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so we don't have much time with you, Amber. We did have a few stories, and you've mentioned Combahee a few times. I know we got Juneteenth coming up, some stories around that. But did you want to cover this Combahee River Raid post that we had here? I have it up on the screen. Okay.
You want to do that before the
Oh, you
check-in?
do?
Yeah. Well, we only got how much time we got for the
I got time.
check-in?
We can check in.
All right, cool. Let's check in. Brother Josh laced us again for the chat because Yipper's a troll and has been spreading this conspiracy theory, sometimes supported by Zenzi. Josh and Lorik are the same person. The brother Josh that helps us with the stories is not my twin. Amber is the twin here. Okay. Our comrade Aaliyah is the twin. We got twins.
Grandma is
I
the
am not a
baby.
twin. Okay. So, our brother Josh, the reason why I go by Lorik, because we got too many damn Joshes, is the one who laced us with the story. And so let's see. He also gave us a check-in question for this week. Let me make sure I have
Appreciate
it
you,
ready to
Josh.
go
Not
for the
Lord.
people. Thank you. Okay,
While
that's a
you
good
look
one.
for that, I also just say that I went to the Low Country because I'm obsessed with Gullah Gullah Island, and Dr. Torrey called Ron Days for me, the guy who co-created the show with his wife Natalie, and I got to talk with him, and that was really cool.
Cool.
Very much a childhood dream fulfilled type shit. Because I was like, oh, I used to watch it as a kid. It was great.
That's got to be a next check-in about our childhood dreams. I got a few still on my list. Florida remix check-in. In a world full of isolation, individualism, how do we build community, both as an individual and as an organization? Always a timely question. How do you build community, y'all, as individuals and or as an organization?
Mm. What do you think, Ichi?
I'll go last. Or you want me to go first? First, you gotta have this skill right here. You gotta be like this white boy. You gotta protect
Can you say that again?
I said you can sell that to me, but I'll sell you a punch in the gut.
Really?
Yep.
Why?
Because you're trying to mess with my granny.
Your granny? Is this your granny?
Yep.
We're doing her house for pest control. Yeah, we're doing pest control. Like actually, I'm gonna take care of her spider webs for her granny. Isn't that not nice?
Why do you walk away like that?
He went to go
Let me
check
go
with
walk
Granny to
away.
see if you was lying.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm gonna go check with Granny because if you lying, I'm coming back. We gonna handle you. So yeah, I think community defense is probably the one. But
Checking
so I
with
had a little
Granny.
time with this question around. So there's a book called Community of Self, and there's a lot of people talk about the individual, and everybody want to be an individual. Some people argue that personalities isn't a product of people's society. But yeah, until we get to a point where our self serves the collective, and we're accountable to a collective, we have like collective meaning. Everybody got their own different words and ideas. Jared talks about the existential threat or crisis of methodology. Yeah, like I feel like, yeah, we would have to have more stomachs for ideological struggle. Somebody's politics is not things that you can measure and see, and it's anchored in actual community. We have to be more rigorous at as that little white boy did is challenging people's political language. Like when somebody say they do something or is a thing, they should be vetted, right? You know, we talk about delegations all the time. People go to Cuba and they want to go see socialism. I think it's interesting that many people have been to Cuba and go see socialism, but they ain't been into some of these local orgs or national left orgs in the United States and investigate if they do what they might say. Amber know about that. When conflicts come, I feel like, again, this is when you really know people's politics. Whenever people are in conflict, people feel wrong. These political frameworks become like weapons or egos. I think we need to move away from clickisms. Black Liberation Study guy talks about clickisms because those things are what people are engaged in, like personal loyalties replace like a political line or whatever. And so people might claim solidarity, but it's really factionalism. And I think we need to move away from, I used to call this momentary reactionary seekers or something like that. But basically people even think with the
word.
Yeah. But it does all essentially it means it's like people pop up and responses. So the situation with Carmelo, right? Again, I know there's a national story now, but there's always local things that's happening, and most people are not plugged into their local organizing, but then they want to sometimes throw themselves into national stories so that they can get more exposures and more resources. And so we need to stop being so reactive and issue based, and start to seriously build long-term programs and things like that. But yeah, I think I'll start there. Like stop there. I feel like a lot of our things are being judged based off of social media posturing, budget realities, and yeah, we don't have the capacity to test these online revolutionaries in community. Like if you ever pull up to these online revolutionaries neighborhood and ask people, do you know them? If you don't get an answer, then yeah. So that's my long circular answer of this question.
It was very long.
Amber, before you go,
First.
there is a I did ask y'all first. There is a term.
I'm not leaving soon.
No. I'm saying before you
What
answer your before you answer,
okay.
not before you leave. Sorry. The term, although it's also a long term. Beat you for what you describe, and I think Huey calls it reactionary intercommunalism. So still a long term, still not immediately clear because even intercommunalism's somewhat complex text makes sense to me, but it's a little complex. But I think what you were describing was what Huey said is that we should be proactive. We should have these structures set up. our communities, our oppressed communities, split throughout this empire, should be ready to respond based on shared values rather than it being a reactionary thing where we're all fractured and yelling past each other and things like that. So what you described with Carmelo, but we can even see with the Rick Chow and Cyrus case, another example of reactionary intercommunalism. Um, some folks saying, we can't trust them Asians again, all that kind of conversation. And then folks like Jared and Sudeep, who I appreciate came together to have their show on Black and Asian dynamics, solidarity, economics, all of those things. But you could argue even their show is a formation of a reaction because they were responding to propaganda put out by the Donut King, which was saying that you could start a Dunkin' Donuts or something, or you could be like whoever it was, some Asian businessman who came here and started a donut shop, and they made it and figured it all out, that kind of thing. So, anyway.
And you're not using reaction and reactionary as the same thing, though, right? Because everything is
No,
essentially
no. Everything is a reaction. You're right. But I think the way that Huey was describing it was that we deal with things that happen to our communities.
Mhm.
And from there, we found the principles of like our solidarity and things like that, even if this stuff has been happening to our communities for long, long periods of time, rather than being proactive and maintaining the fact that, okay, this is how our colonized communities need to be interacting. It's like, oh, something happened again. We got to figure it out. We got to come together on that basis. And that's not a sustainable way to organize, essentially. At least that's how I understand intercommunalism. If I'm wrong, someone can help me out.
So this is Grace Lee Boggs' organization, mean commitment, and kind of like to the point of the last part of the question. Where did I move the thing? Oh, sorry. Yeah. So boom, 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 boom. Our preoccupation of people with their own private pursuits and their material comforts, and in their lack of political consciousness and social responsibility, most people are not accountable to. Not most. A lot of people are not even accountable to a base or even an organization. There's a lot of cult of personalities around, as well as of genuine self-governing institutions, which could encourage the development of political consciousness and social responsibility. I once had a online revolutionary who leads an organization told me that socialism is not something that we do among ourselves. It's something that governments enforce on people. And so again, it's important to engage with people's social responsibility. And the ability to govern, right? Self-govern and govern. Like if you get in power, like how you gonna govern other than how you interacting with your organization. It can then be seen that the chief purpose of the revolution is to accelerate the rapid growth of political consciousness and social responsibility. And so, yeah, I think Grace Lee Boggs is a monumental book if you're talking about organization. Organization means commitment. But go ahead, Amber, what you got?
How we build community
when we're isolated.
Hold on, I'm waiting on the question to roll around again. Okay, how do we build community, both as an individual and as an organization? When you first asked the question, I was thinking the main ways I think are most realistic is like doing things that aren't organizing, like doing things that aren't like work that we're doing within, orgs that we're in, or like trying to like organize community. Like I feel like you build community the most when you're just doing normal shit. Like I was telling my friend yesterday, one of my friends who's like really big into politics here because she works for the Dem party here. I was like, your whole life can't be politics. Like you have to like date. Cause she was like, I don't know how you're balancing all these things. I was like, because you have to have other stuff going on. Like you're not gonna build any kind of community beyond like the people you work with if you don't date people or have a hobby or do something outside of that. And so that's why I be telling a lot of people. I feel like also it does lead you to community or can lead you to an organization when you are trying to build community by doing something else. but I think you have to do those things first. I feel like people who are only focused on like movement stuff, they only want to be in or movement orgs, they only want to go to movement events, like they don't have any real life. And it kind of makes you build like this false sense of community because the people in that organization are not your family. Like they can be somebody you're cool with, but they're not your community that you're like seeing and like working with every day. And so I think it's more important to like build community with the people around you, like hanging out with your neighbors or like going to get a new hobby, like other random stuff. There's like these book clubs that we have in Memphis that I joined that I really like that don't have people who are normally doing like movement stuff in them. They're just regular people. And I think stuff like that is more of a way to build like community. And I do agree about the thing you were saying around Carmelo and like how like there wasn't like organizations they were in before this. And so it was a lot of like their parents are like learn his parents are like learning stuff in real time and figuring out like stuff. They talked about how the lawyer they got, like this white lawyer they got, they shouldn't have listened, they shouldn't have gotten a white lawyer. And I think that if they had been like more in community, they had people who were like able to advise them, then it would have been a little bit better for them. But because like they didn't have that, it kind of like went south for them. But I know they're also gonna appeal the case and stuff too. But yeah, I think it's important to just build stuff ahead of time through like more unconventional means. I also think that the only way you could really build community is if you're able to sustain the relationships. And I don't think you can sustain relationships when you only have relationships with moving niggas or people you work with. Because that means
Mm.
your only connection to them is work.
What,
Can I?
Laura? I wonder if you can answer this while you answering that question. Like, how do you feel like we could or should engage? Kind of what Amber was saying with people who they think they're the movement. They think they're and they use political language for more of like a identity construction rather than like how to navigate and practice with people. So like, what would you say will be the response to somebody who is not living up to their online image?
Yeah, to Amber's point, right? Like, because that was exactly where my mind was going with this question. There's like this movement, and when we talk about the age of the nonprofit in this era and how it's literally transformed organizing in the U.S. and around the world, like those things can no longer be blurred because the movement is seen as its own isolated, professionalized kind of space. So like movement organizations, I think organizations exist for different purposes, right? And then they should be there to fight, but that can look like completely different things. So how are Black families organized? Typically through a social unit like the church. So that's how my family was organized, and that's how we met other Black families and therefore built community. So there was an organization, but it existed for a different purpose in a way. So when I think about like Amber's point, because I'm like, yeah, well, if you're just thinking about your environmental justice nonprofit organization, and that is your life, as like Amber's pointing out, and that becomes your whole thing. So we're going to socials about the environmental justice organization. We're doing retreats with the environmental justice organization. I do my hangouts with them. Everything becomes them, right? I don't think that is what we are thinking of when we say community. But that doesn't mean that you can't have multiple things in your life that are centered around environmental justice that are forms of organizing. So you could have well, down here you can kayak. So you could be a part of a kayaking group. And that is one way that you engage in environmental justice. Then you could have your organization that fights for policy, and you could have your book club that meets about it. So there are like different social spaces that I think need to be organized, no doubt. But I don't think that in our era that's considered the movement, quote unquote. But when I'm thinking about this, I'm like, yeah, well, you have to know your neighbors, right? That would be an example of building community, and that wouldn't necessarily be in the movement. But under capitalism, your neighbors need to be organized into some sort of tenants union or some sort of neighbors association. So I think that gets discussed in like some very isolated ways. Like Black Men Build is my political home community organization in a lot of ways, but I have other parts of my life where I'm a part of social groups or organizations, right? It's not just one thing. So if I'm a part of a tenants union and I'm a part of a book club and I'm a part of a political party and I'm a part of this organization, I think that's a way to build community. And there's obviously overlap, right? But the people who come to our run clubs down here are not exactly the people who show up to City Hall. We're trying to merge those two though, like that, especially when it's necessary, especially when those worlds collide. But it's not to say that those things have to exist and have to be, smashed together in that way. So that's kind of what I was thinking about. Community is from a bunch of different places, a bunch of different social institutions, but all of them need to be organized around shared values, was how I would describe it.
Yeah, I just think most people are calling social clubs organizations.
Right.
And I'm curious. And I see Leah talking about Kamal. Like,
And
I'm
it's
curious.
okay to have a social club. I don't think that there's anything wrong with
Right.
Yeah,
having
but
a
don't
social club.
but
Just
don't
don't
call it
call it
a
an
revolutionary
organization.
organization. Yeah.
Right, and that's why I think that's I think we're all agreeing on that, because a gun club is another form of like building community, right? And then some of the reactionary folks you're gonna find, if you are at a gun range, you're gonna find law enforcement and you're gonna find military. It is what it is. Maybe y'all know the communist gun ranges that I ain't never heard of, but that can be a community that you engage in. Do they have your shared values though? All of those things, that becomes a side of struggle. So when Baba AK talks about we will shoot back, we talk about armed self-defense in our communities. He has a long community history in the South discussing gun culture, where it came from, how it developed to teach youth how to protect themselves, to teach women to arm themselves against white rapists, right? Like that is an example. And yes, your gun club can be a social club, but to revolutionize it, it's going to have to talk about that kind of thing. So when we did armed self-defense down here, one of the discussions was in some ways the South is very similar. The Carmelo case is showing us that. So you will still have to protect yourself against white racists. I don't care if you live in Miami in an urban center, it's true. At the same time, gun culture in our community now is, how do you protect yourself? How do you have the proper gun safety practices so a little kid doesn't find a gun and shoot themselves or shoot their mom or shoot their sister?
That part.
Because that is now a part of our society. These kids are getting ARs, they don't know about the penetration, and they shooting through car doors and killing people, right? So to me, your social club, your gun club can be revolutionized if it is meant to address this sort of thing. If there's a social emotional component that talks about, well, how do you deal with
They're
mental
not
health?
doing it.
Oh yeah, Amber, of course. So that becomes my whole thing about how you build a community. Is you have to have a value system, you have to have a purpose, you have to be politically aware of why y'all are even together in the first place. Because that becomes my other thing. Like we could just hang out, I guess, but I generally like am not just randomly hanging out with people. That's just not me anymore. Maybe other people do that, but I tend to be like, why are we hanging out?
Tell me this really quick. So we talking about building community and organization. What's you in Miami, right?
Mm.
If something happened in Alvin, South Carolina, and somebody gets shot, and the local people make it national news, if Black Men Bill tried to go infuse themselves in Alvin, South Carolina, what would building community look like in Alvin, South Carolina? You don't have a chapter there. You don't know who's working there. You don't know nobody there. But you're really there to get your name on the docket on national news now. That's why you really
there. Exactly.
Because you could, you know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious
well,
what on that.
I think that's Amber's place. You're not community for real. Like, who are you? That would be my first question. If if I'm asking about South Carolina, I'm gonna ask y'all. We're like, okay, Geechee, what's going on in South Carolina? Or Amber, you're there right now. I don't know these niggas in that way.
Right.
I care, so I'm gonna want to. But yeah, I think that's a difference. If you have resources, even that becomes a thing. We talk about Ben Crump and the parachute style, the ambulance chasing style, where you're just always there. That's not community either. But if I have resources, if I'm like,
I said, damn, do you have a police radar or something? How you finding this shit?
Yeah, and then you can add, so I just think y'all are already on it. What's the community organizing approach to this thing? I'm not just gonna pop up somewhere where I don't know nobody and say this is my thing. He could have been my son, right? No, that's crazy. Well, I need to ask what's
It is
going on. I
weird.
need to know what's going on the ground. It's weird to not move like that. And again, when we talk about Black people's culture, checking in is a huge part of it. So I think that's where we talk about the movement culture, quote unquote, nonprofit kind of organization
Mhm.
styles clashing with indigenous Black culture. Because check-in is the first thing I'm asking about. And even if I'm a a professional revolutionary, as Lennon tells us, and I'm actually dropped there, my org is cadre, they're like, listen, bro, we need you to go over there and hide some contradictions, sharpen some shit. Those people, like when Kwame Ture is dropped in the city or Ella Baker's dropped in the city, they know how to move. So I'm gonna be like, all right, let me go to church. Let me go talk to Auntie. Let me go see who knows what. And I'm gonna be there quiet for probably months before you even know I'm there. If we're talking about how we should be navigating.
But if you ain't got no wins in your community, why are you even there?
But I did what's I just said as a professional revolutionary, I said Kwame Ture and Ella Baker.
It's a
People who have
different it's a different definition now. Professional revolution is a different definition. That nonprofit industrial complex is different.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If I said Kwame Ture and Ella Baker for a reason, I gave some specific examples
Yeah.
of people who know how to put some wins on the board, who has some uh some representation, in other movement spaces, people who were known in their city. Kwame Ture didn't just drop into Lowndes County without some organizing history and experience under his belt. So yeah, but like I'm saying, you would know I'm there. Which Amber am I at? Hold on. This one. Yeah. That's how I would move with it. You wouldn't know I was there. I would be embedded in the community. I would be trying to stay with somebody who's actually dealing with this. And yeah, just sit in. Like the way I see Kwame Ture when he taught like the organizing one-on-one lecture, it's in like a church. And he's just there asking questions and walking people through their thought process and things like that. You don't see him as the spokesman for the thing they're trying to do in that area of
You
town.
let the wrong me
So
in.
damn it. All right. Hey, Amber back.
That's the right
Okay.
one.
So Amber Twin
Amber-
is here. Amber Twin is in. One, I don't know which one of them we adopting to be. Hey, we I ain't know if you know. You can't go back to Memphis.
Oh yeah, Geechee already said you are
They tried to
now a
keep me. I was
Carolinian.
trying
You
to leave
Banya.
yesterday.
Hey, tell them what you
Benya.
are. You ain't no Kamya. What you is?
I'm a Benya.
She a Benya. She ain't no Kamya no more. She a Benya. So you can't go back to Memphis. I'm gonna give you
This
my
is
granny
the
number. And you
this
go
the
and go over
soil
her
I
house.
got from Mitchellville. It has like crystals in there. I can tell it's like got crystals in there because it's got sand from the beach. But like that's like from the regular part of the land, which is really cool. And then these are clamshells I got in Bluffton, which is really cool. And then the soil I had from the Combahee River, it's in my suitcase. So I couldn't show y'all that one.
Amber, you perfectly predicted what I was about to ask you, which is, since we're talking about
What?
building community and culture, why do you take soil from different places? Like, what does that mean for you? Because I feel like I instantly connected with that practice. So just related to
Mhm.
the check-in, I was wondering why you do that. What does it mean?
I think that going to the Combahee River kind of felt um like very centering and communal practice for me. Like being able to go to where these very like cool raids happened where Harriet Tubman like freed 700 plus slaves and shit. And like he's so funny. And like actually being there and like touching the water, like I got in I put my hands in the water. I think that was like really important because you're able to connect to like what's there, like the history of the people within the land. It's in the soil. And I learned that also. I talked about that at Mitchellville about how like it's a historic property, so they can't even like use a shovel in areas that haven't been already excavated, because they go more than 2 inches down, you're gonna hit like an artifact, or you'll hit like a different part of the soil that used to be a building or something else. And he showed me like these pictures of like when they dig, you could see from the top layer and then under that where there used to be like a place someone lived, because the soil looks different if a house was on top of it. And so I just think that there's so much history in like the land and the soil and the dirt in places. And I also think that there's a beautiful rebellious history there that I would want to take with me. Like I want to take the dirt from the Combahee River, because like there's also so much that the Combahee River carries, right? Like there were so many Africans that were freed through the Combahee River. It holds like all these different historical contexts for people. When we talk about like the Combahee, um, like the women who formed the transformative justice group around that. And so I just think that it was really cool for me to experience, and I want to make sure I take that like communal part with me.
Bro,
Beautiful.
I don't know if you had the experience or if you and BJ talk about it, but so I assume you went to a prayer's house, and like they
I
have the
did.
replica of prayer houses, where prayers houses specifically had political orientations, because that's what Gullah people were organizing at. And the Gullah
Mhm.
language is an organizing tool. But when you get to the point where hair is more of like um, a badge of honor that younger people use it as. Oh, I speak Gullah, and it's more cultural, right? And you can see it kind of bleed into cultural nationalism. So I'm curious if you
Mhm.
had any experience around like, obviously BJ straight, but the politics of people, and even Torre, but the politics of people that's not BJ and Torre. Like if you ever got to,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm curious if you got
I
any
didn't really
thoughts.
talk to any white people while I was there, because I was only there to do like stuff around Gullah Geechee culture. But I did feel like, especially my first night in Charleston, like the white people are very like um what's the word? They're very guarded over like the space and the property. Like I even like just walking down the street. This lady put her arm up for when I was trying to go to a restaurant. She like blocked me from going through the door. Like they're just very like, who are you? Like we're not gonna let you in type of shit. And I was like, why do y'all act like this? Like it's not that fucking serious. And I think that also to me was a kind of a representation of like how they treated the Gullah people, because they've taken their land, they're encroaching on their spaces, and then they, are these colonialists that also act like, and why are you here? Like you're not welcome here. We don't want you here. Type of vibe. And I felt that the most in Charleston. I didn't feel that in like St. Helena. I did go to a farm. I went to two actually. I went to the Gullah Co-op. I went to the Berry Farms, and I talked to the
I
black
think we're
guy
losing
there
you
who
a little
runs the
bit.
farm, which was really cool.
Hang on.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you started glitching toward when you said St. Helen, but I heard the end of it.
Oh, I was saying I just went to a farm and I got to talk to the black guy who ran the farm there, and they're very in community with like the immigrant community, but they're not in community with the white people. And so I think that that also was a thing that I noticed about like how they commune, as people. Like the black people fuck with the immigrants and stuff. Like they're working on the farms with them, they're doing stuff, but they do not fuck with the white people like that. And I understand why. Seeing the actual land myself and how they like have encroached on it and what they've done, I was like, yeah, I would feel the same way.
Mm, yeah, yeah. That reminded me of, again, building community, and what I think, which is we're going to be parts of multiple communities. We have multiple identities, right, that are at play within us at any given point. And so I even think that I really am centered on your point, Amber, about people who make quote unquote movement their whole social life. And in some ways, I don't think that's necessarily a problem if there were, like what we're saying, it's not isolated to like a nonprofit or a specific one organization, but to a bunch of different
Hmm.
social institutions in our community. Because I do think about people who don't have family, and like Star House, where are trans revolutionaries. We're taking on street queer youth and stuff like that who didn't have housing. And so I do think in some ways it is possible, but that's like they were showing you how to get a job, they were bailing you out of jail, they were taking you to balls. So it became a whole social fabric, not just like this one curated thing. But my point is, so with Black Liberation Media, that is one community I'm able to operate in where I'm able to, be my, well, no, I'm talking about Black Liberation Media, where I can say certain things, right? Because we had our review crew, I always mess up saying it, and we were able to hate on this movie. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. It was a safe space where people around my politics were able to talk about the limitations of this film, why we weren't fans, certain things like that. And that is my community.
Not you was hating on Sinners. First of all, the soundtrack is so good.
That was the only ever we talked fast. That was, we gave our little thumbs up. Were the only things we thought.
So good.
The soundtrack was allowed. It was given its green check. It was allowed to pass go. Everything else was a no go though. But while Sinners in that review crew episode is something I'm able to share, it is something I'm very proud of that we did, where we outlined those critiques. It's not every community I'm going to be in. Some people are going to interact with that movie differently. So in Miami, we screened it at a community center down here. And so this was a bit of the slideshow that we used. Again, it was earlier this year. We're going to screen Sinners. We had kids who wanted to go in there. We had to be like, oh, actually the kids can't go. We had some elders in there, some of the old ladies who we thought might be a little prude. They were actually enjoying the hot and steamy sex scenes. So it was, that was a whole thing. They like Michael B. Jordan.
Auntie Thelma said she gets down too. She been there.
Yeah, she did. They like, and I'm forgetting her name, Wumi Musaku, right? They like that scene. So anyway, when we did this, though, there was a way we infused, obviously, our organization, what we're there to do. And then this slide that has now become one of my favorites about culture. And Walter Rodney's quote, culture is a total way of life. It embraces what people ate, what they wore, the way they walked, and the way they talked, the manner in which they treated death and greeted the newborn. So that's become my favorite quote about culture, defining culture. When people ask, what is the culture? How are we building our culture? And then I appreciated how in Grounded with My Brothers, and he expands on this and how Europe Underdeveloped Africa, he talks about the principles of African culture. Because I do think when we talk about delineation and ADOS and FBA and these diaspora wars, things that have been manufactured, this kind of stuff gets left out. But we are noticing things, just like we said the red rice thing, and we were able to be like, oh shit, Ghana's got red rice, New Orleans has this red rice practice. I know there are people down here who practice it, Amber's in Carolina and seeing all of this, right?
Ghana got jollof.
They got red rice though. Even
they got jollof. Jollof is red.
Ah, I see. So
yeah, the jollof is red.
When talking about this, the check marks, the list of things that he gives for African cultures was just super helpful, I think, as an exercise from no matter where you're from, you're Bahamian, you're Jamaican, you're African American or whatnot, you'll notice these things. And so, and different examples of them. And again, I think that's what unites us as African. Walter Rodney and Malcolm X both say we're African. So we went through these, and I even asked people, like, can you think of examples? But hospitality, respect, especially to the elders, importance of the women.
And the Gullah people will tell you they're African too.
Some of them,
because they could our people always. But with this, like, I was like, which of these humane treatment of lawbreakers, spiritual reflection, common use of the land, constant employment of music, especially drums, bright colors, and this one is especially powerful among our church folk, right? And he says some of these are found in many human societies, not to say it's exclusively African, not to say Asian, indigenous, even European people don't practice them, but very few are encouraged in the present white capitalist world. And so that to me is a basis of community. We have our shared values, but there's also a lot of practices we have in common. There's that video of two African-American girls doing like patty cake essentially, and they're talking to two Brazilian girls, and they have the same patty cake game, just with different words. I don't know if y'all have seen that. So that's the kind of thing I think of when we talk about how we build community.
But it makes sense.
Yeah, if I can find it, I'll pull it up. But it was really beautiful. And it just shows, again, we're an African people, no matter where the boat dropped us off. So,
You know, one of the things that I often do is I respond to stuff that I see in Charleston when I can't bear it anymore. So this sister, Samantha German, she's a young journalist for Charleston Live 5 News. I used to work for Channel 4 in Mount Pleasant, so Live 5 whack. But she made this story about this father and the two daughters who was in the movement. And in the story, they like totally erase Esau Jenkins. They totally erase the black women who led the biggest strike in the hospital, and they were just like so I'm writing a response to that because it's like I don't really like it, but you will get a lot of people who will
Yeah, you
water
should,
down.
because people will put out some revisionist history.
It's nasty work. Nasty. I mean, even with Benya, people could be like,
And
well,
speaking of nasty work,
go ahead.
People can be like, what?
Oh, you probably delayed. Now I was saying people try to like retwist Benya to be like, oh, we Benya meaning we indigenous, we ain't African. So some of the, and then on top of that, I was going to share this too.
See
So
him doing that, 'cause niggas always take shit too far.
Yeah. So we recently, the other thing that happened was my coaches, they be my high school coaches, they are interesting characters as we get older. I mean, we knew they was on some bullshit when we was younger, but one of my high school coaches, he posted the other day some person running for office, and he was just saying like, oh, he a nice dude and vote for Matt and blah blah blah. And then I send him this long message asking him about specific policies. Why Matt? And he turned around and was like, hey man, great to hear from you, blah, blah, blah. I'll be honest, I don't know nothing about Matt policies. I think he's a good person and he's somebody we could trust and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, eh. And then I had another conversation with another person that I grew up with from Charleston. Ironically, me and my sister taught her how to dance, and she taught us how to play tennis. She's a white lady, but she ended up using the word Benya, and I was like, she was like, oh well, she was like, we always use that word. I was like, but anyway.
I was just gonna say, speaking of that, I just think it's interesting that Lori did not respond to any of our group messages during my time of need, but that's cool.
And there's already a message of me saying I will be responding when I have capacity. She just
revisiting this history. She just said she didn't want to do that. Now look at her.
Just being messy.
Don't do that, Amber. Don't be.
It's not revisionist history. I was in crisis. I needed you.
So you saying I wasn't good enough? Because then I respond?
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead, Geechee.
Your response was good. But this the problem. The problem be that like the response be good, Geechee, but you always end with, yeah, so get in a relationship with that nigga. No. That's not the point. That's not the point we're making.
Amber don't want solutions.
Amber don't like big brother advice. She like the middle brother advice. That's crazy shit. I've been here a little while,
Everything
I like the advice. He actually gave me good advice the other day when we were talking. I think that, solution is not to be in a relationship. Solution is that I need to know some other stuff. That's all. But work was nowhere to be found.
Unfortunately, I was not.
But it's cool. We're going on vacation this weekend. Well, we're going on vacation tomorrow.
Good. What Zinzi just be talking?
What is he talking about?
She just be talking. How do you understand? We need unsolicited advice. If she literally just said she texted us for the advice, how's that unsolicited? Like, what are you talking about?
That's also true. We didn't do well. First of all, technically, Walter Rod did it before us. If the quote
you pulled the wrong one.
His book. Oh, I was talking about that. I thought this was y'all.
She the big sister, but the big sister, that's unsolicited advice right there. That's the unsolicited. We ain't even need to hear that just now. I know I'm chilling.
Yeah, I
I'm chilling.
did text her. I group chat.
I'm chilling, Zinzi. I'm getting
Right,
loud.
right.
Nah, don't do that to us now. You be coming in the hot sometimes. Now slow down.
Oh man.
But anyways,
We love
the crisis has been averted, and me and the nigga who reads on the trip, so we're gonna see what happens.
Look, Amber gonna be in a relationship next month, so chill out.
Oh snap! That's right.
We going on a triple date somewhere. Everybody gonna be dating everybody.
Everybody yeah, it's a polycule.
Not everybody gonna be dating everybody.
Oh man.
And Amber, see, this is why you gotta not
didn't
say
tell me to get in a
you can't
relationship with everybody.
listen. You can't be
No.
retelling revision history because you know Zinzi just gonna react to that and she
Oh
wait
my
for an
God.
opening. She waits for an opening and so she can
Now
come
she
give her
waiting
a
on
little.
her moment.
Get in there.
No, it's not unsolicited advice. He just always tells me to get into a relationship with that one because he likes
No,
him.
I didn't
So
always tell you to get in a relationship.
the advice
No.
with that one, with that specific one.
No, that's
You
not how it
told me
goes.
to get in a relationship with that man like 3 times.
What I said was your response to what he's doing don't align with your objectives of him being one nigga on the roster. That's what I said. If he one nigga on the roster, that means you one nigga on his roster, and y'all should let that ride. But if you don't want more people on his roster, then you gonna have to cut your roster, and everybody roster gonna have to be roster out, roster pasta. That's all I'm saying. And I don't know the brother. You don't want him to meet your big brothers. That's what your problem is. You don't want them to meet the big brothers.
Oh my God.
We're gonna tighten him up and tighten you up because we African still big brothers.
This is our relationship podcast, y'all.
Lord Jesus.
I promise we gonna get to news. This is what I'm here
Yeah,
for. I'm here to get us back
Tell
to
her
the
we
news.
ain't the brothers. We ain't the brothers that's always gonna take the sister side.
No,
We're gonna even it out and make sure Amber doing the right thing.
I wasn't wrong.
Listen, I ain't saying you wrong.
It's fine because I wasn't wrong. That's good.
I'm just saying we're gonna get some vegan rasta pasta on our trip.
I'm definitely gonna write some up.
I want some rasta pasta. Also, dope name. Black Mermaids is dope. I like the name. All right, y'all. Ooh,
you was cooking, Geechee. I will give it to Black Mermaids. You was cooking. You was cooking.
I know how to cook.
You was in there.
Yeah,
I know how to cook, Gullah. I know how to cook, Gullah. Hoppin' Johns. You ain't get no Hoppin' Johns. BJ ain't give you no Hoppin' Johns?
No, they mentioned it, but I was honestly food. They was feeding me food every 2 hours.
I hope you ain't no bus meat. I hope you ain't no bus meat down there. Lord Jesus.
What's bush meat or bus meat?
Nah,
bus meat. Bus meat.
What's bus meat?
Man, that's from a pig.
Oh, that's swine. Well, where's it from? I mean,
it's slabbed from the bust of the pig.
Is it? Well, you wouldn't know.
I don't eat it.
I was going to ask if it was good, but yeah. Shrimp and fish.
Amber, turn your camera off and see if that thing worked better. The audio.
Yeah.
Because you keep
talking.
Yeah, you're glitching out a little bit, unfortunately.
Damn, that sucks.
You know, some people, I don't think this is age, John Camphor. I think some people, the drama stays their whole life. And some people I know, they've just been chill since they were kids. So it really depends. I think some people can age out the drama, though. Happy if you have. My goal is to age out the drama, but the drama finds me.
No, but
I run.
It's butt. I think
bus meat.
I think it's bus meat, butts meat, but you know we call it bus meat. That's how we say it. Bus meat.
Oh man, yeah, agreed, Desi. Some people don't get wiser; they just get old. Yeah, that's why we don't get to call everyone an elder, unfortunately, because you got to learn from your mistakes in order to get that title. You got to have something new to teach the kids. Something we want them to actually learn.
There's roadkill.
There's road. Hey, again, depending on what gets killed on the road, people eat it. People eat iguanas. That's what we got to talk about in Florida because they were falling from the trees. They invasive. It's not even a problem. It's chicken of the trees. That's what they call that. The iguana, the chicken of the trees. It gets cold and they just fall out. And it's just free food, man. If you know how to cook that up, they were making iguana tacos. Man, I haven't had it. Have I had iguana? I've had gator before. I don't know if I've had iguana.
I had gator before and I didn't like it.
I liked it. Which part? Because it's gator's different depending on the part you have. Like the tail
I
tastes
don't
different
even
than
know
the
what part
belly.
it was. It was fried. I just felt bad for the. I was like, I don't think we should be eating alligators. I ain't like it.
Compared to the chicken, what the chicken do that the alligator ain't do?
We definitely supposed to be eating that chicken. Let's
I
be so.
did. Oh, get you. Go ahead, man. Get the vegan.
We supposed to be eating
get
that chicken. We're
the,
not supposed to be
assemble
eating alligators.
the, assemble
Okay, I
the
figured out
vegan.
what happened. My phone overheated.
Ah.
That's why I started tripping.
You
But
know-
it's
you
working
know-
on here right now, so let's just
You
go
know,
with that.
I heard a omen, and I ain't gonna repeat it too much, but because chickens, they do something to their offsprings, and somebody said because they do something to their offsprings, when black people eat so much chicken, that's why they end up doing things to their offspring. But
It's,
that's
hey,
all I'm
That's
saying.
dumb.
I know it is.
hey, man. I don't know. All I know is I'm not speciesist. Okay. I don't
Man,
think it's
listen, y'all. If you gonna eat meat, eat all the meats. You eat
That's what
camel,
I'm saying.
horse. You need to eat horse,
Listen.
Campbell, everything. Eat everything.
Well,
Eat it
growing up
all.
with white people would be racist about this shit. About like they eat dog or they eat cat or whatever. Haitians and Chinese, you united. There's you go. Reactionary into communalism again. Y'all both got blamed for eating dogs and cats. But when they would say that, I was like, just because you pay $5,000 to give your cat luxury housing does not mean that shit is any different than a cow. What makes a cat suddenly more sacred than a cow? I don't get it. I never
They said
understood
it is.
that.
That's what makes it more sacred because they say
Exactly, because white people think that's their culture. I was just like, I don't.
Yeah.
Just because you like your dog, don't mean that somebody else can't eat that. I don't see the difference personally.
Okay, Lord, I have to go. So can we talk about the story?
Wait, so you have to. Amber said she was here for the ride, y'all. Now she's
No, I was
she's
saying earlier that I
flipping
wasn't
out
going to
on
leave
us.
immediately.
Now I got you. Let me pull it up. So, while doing that, it's time for news. Welcome Friday Remix. Geechee, Lorik, and Amber, who's leaving us shortly, which is why she's going to cover this first story, which is very relevant to her current trip. So, remembering the Combahee River Raid in 1863. Amber, want to take us through this? I'll be good on the slides, I promise.
Yeah. On this day, we honor Harriet Tubman and the Combahee River Raid, a powerful reminder that freedom has always required courage, strategy, and collective action. On June 1st and 2nd, 1863, Harriet Tubman became the first American woman to lead a major military operation, guiding Union forces up South Carolina's Combahee River and helping liberate more than 750 enslaved people. Through her brilliance, leadership, and unwavering commitment to freedom, hundreds were reunited with possibility, and over 100 newly liberated men chose to continue the fight for the freedom of others.
I'm going to keep going through the. Sorry, I'll just go through the slides instead. First of all, I don't know if this quote is true. So there are some things about this post I have some critiques on, but I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. Harriet Tubman. I've seen this quote a few times, but I'm not sure if she actually said this one.
I'm iffy on it, but I also will say that
It's not
like the historical plaque at the Combahee River says 700. So I don't know if it was 750 or 700. I don't know. I just know it was some niggas. It was a whole gaggle of niggas.
A lot, yeah.
But that Lord quote is not true. That's the same quote I follow. Like I don't be arguing with the niggas that Harriet would have shot. Like it's the same reactionary.
Yeah. So you got to be careful with the quotes. There's some Harriet Tubman quotes that are not Harriet Tubman. So, sorry, Amber. Next slot.
It's okay. Guiding Union gunboats and 150 black soldiers of the 2nd South Carolina Volunteers up the Combahee River, she outmaneuvered Confederate forces and liberated over 750 people in South Carolina, enslaved people. Can you move them little bubble things out the way? I couldn't see
I
it.
hate this. I don't know how to
You have to drag them down.
on. Oh, thank you, Amber, teaching me. Thank you. All right.
You're
Sorry, I know
welcome.
this one's a little harder to
The
read.
details and achievements. Strategic intelligence. Tubman utilized her intimate knowledge of the region, honed from her time on the Underground Railroad, and intelligence from local slaves to steer the Union gunboats safely around Confederate torpedoes, which are underwater mines planted in the river. As the ship's steam whistles blew, hundreds of enslaved people working in the nearby rice fields abandoned the plantations and lined the riverbanks, and the Union troops rescued 756 enslaved individuals. To cripple the Confederate war effort, the troops torched several major plantations, warehouses, and mills, dealing a huge financial and psychological blow to wealthy secessionists. More than 100 of the newly liberated men immediately enlisted in the Union Army to fight for the freedom of others.
Hard. And then there's looks like some of the cheering,
It's a
as Get
mural.
USA, and a mural.
Yeah, it's a mural in DC, but there's the monument. I thought you were gonna show the video that I made, Lyric, but there's a monument there that I went to, and I made a video
Show the
about. And
video. Show the video.
Drop
Show
it
the
in the
video.
chat. Yeah, you know how this go.
I
I
don't
got
have.
you.
Oh, drop it in
Is
the
it on
chat.
A is for Afro?
Yeah, it's the first
I,
video.
I could go find it. Give me a sec. But go ahead, continue as you were saying.
Oh, I was just saying. After I went to the Combahee River and then went to her monument, I went to Robert Smalls's house, and then the place where he's buried. There's a monument there too. Um, I just think it's so cool because when they talk about like her using the intimate knowledge of like the water and stuff like that, one of the things that like I was talking to someone there about is how like the rice channels, they're still there because of the way that like they were going through the water so much. Like all the channels they used to use still exist like currently in the water. And when you're looking at it, like you can kind of see it a little bit. I can definitely see with how the water moves and like even in the marshes and stuff. Like there's channels that have been made that are still there to this day. When they was made, 200 years ago, which is really cool. And one other thing I learned from Dr. Torre is everybody's celebrating America's 250th, but Black people been here for 500 years. Ain't nobody talking about that. And I said, you know what? You're right, Dr. Torre.
Thank you. And with you saying that, I wanted to point out that it says she's the first American woman to lead a military expedition. And again, how we tell our history is so important. I don't tell it that way. She's one of many African women who led military expeditions against slavery. Because in terms of that lineage, her in the 1800s, Lady Carlotta in Cuba was before that. Victoria Mondu in Haiti was before that. So she's in a lineage of African women who led military campaigns against enslavers, not the first American woman, right? But of course, depending on the movement, as we said, funding you get and all of those things.
And I also think that like some people, because I don't believe in the country in America and like, the foundations of it or nothing. So I don't even use terms like that. I think some people who, do still connect to that will say like the first American to do this, the first.
Yeah.
I'll say I'm the first Black person before anything. I don't be saying I'm American. So I didn't use that language either because I don't agree with it.
Yep. And come on with the green dress. Oh, boy.
Oh my God.
Matching the land. I like it. All right. So this is Amber's video. Make sure the volume's up. Recent trip to South Carolina.
Did you know Harriet Tubman freed over 700 enslaved men, women, and children in this very spot? I'm in Beaufort, South Carolina at the Harriet Tubman Memorial Bridge, which is right where the Combahee River Raid happened. So on June 1st, Harriet Tubman helped Colonel James Montgomery bring steamboats to this very spot. They set fire to plantations, they burned rice fields, and they freed Black folks. This is just one of my first stops on a tour through the low country of South Carolina talking about how important it is that we recognize why South Carolina should be on our radar. And just, really paying attention to all the history that's here.
The raid happened right here on the Combahee River in 1863. Seeing this sent me down a rabbit hole about Harriet Tubman and her time in the Low Countries. So let's go on an adventure. I started by going to the home of Robert Smalls, who is most known for commandeering a Confederate ship. At just 23, he used a captain's straw hat to disguise himself and picked up his family members and sailed them to freedom. There's also a really cool monument honoring Harriet Tubman and the impact she made in the Low Country of South Carolina. And just down the block is a monument that's honoring Robert Smalls and where his family is actually buried in South Carolina. Robert Smalls actually did go on to be an elected official in the Reconstruction era and was a huge advocate for the area and eventually became a congressman. Still thinking about the impact that Harriet Tubman made, I wanted to learn more about what she did in the Low Country. So I went to the Penn Center, which is full of African American history. Okay, so I'm at the Penn Center with
Robert Adams,
the ED.
Yes. So she did a lot of things here in Beaufort during the Civil War when she was down here. She owned a restaurant, so she cooked. She had a laundromat that the U.S. Army actually
Nurse, spy.
She was a spy. She was a nurse. So she did so many different things here. During 1861, when the Union forces came in, it was an enclave of Union forces surrounded by the Confederacy. So they needed people for the medicine. People were getting shot. They needed food. They needed people that could understand where enemy forces were moving. They needed all of that, and she was down with it. She was like, whatever needs to be done, whatever's going to create freedom, I'm here for that. Yeah. Right. And then so this is at the same time, Robert Smalls is in the area. Other people that are, radical abolitionists, Black folk, they're here. So she was an amazing force here.
I left there and got back on the road, so stay tuned for what's next.
That was dope, Amber.
Amber, that just looked good on you, and you need to be in South Carolina more.
Oh my gosh.
Geechee trying to
I
steal you out of
said
Memphis.
I'm not gonna hold you. I
Listen.
definitely for real, I was texting Geechee and I feel like this is exactly the place I should have came. I think I'm gonna cry. Let me calm down. But I really feel like this is the place that I should have came right now in my organizing. It was so I felt so deeply connected to so much rebellious, amazing organizing. And I just don't like that how they don't really talk about all the cool shit that Harriet Tubman did. I learned so much here that I never knew before. When I was at the Penn Center, walking around, seeing the Geechee style of art, which I'm talking about in the next video. I have started crying, so I will turn the camera off. But
Man, show them tails. Stop acting like that.
No.
That thing fall. You gullah Geechee now, girl. Chill out now.
I do think that there is so much history here that we aren't we don't know about, but also I think that there's a feeling. The feeling that I felt here was probably the best thing. I felt so deeply connected to the radical organizing that I'm doing. I think that's what drew me to want to do something more. And also I was telling Geechee the air just smells like water. It just smells like seawater. And that's just super calming too.
All right, now when you get on that Cosgrove exit, you gonna smell the paper mill. Damn down.
Oh Lord. But no, it was really cool. I think they just kind of how I talked about before, how Black women really, aren't the organizing they did isn't talked about. And I think that there's so much to learn from the type of organizing that she did. And I learned a lot about that at the Penn Center, which I'll talk about in the next video that I'm going to post. But I'm also talking about why Gullah heritage is so important. And I do feel the individualism thing we talked about earlier, I think that if more people came to South Carolina, specifically the Low Country, and saw how deeply connected we are to our African ancestors, West African history, then they wouldn't feel such a disconnection. And I think that that's one of the main things for me is I feel so much deep sorrow around not knowing where my people are from. And I could definitely feel, I don't like this. But I definitely felt I know where my people are from when I was here. Like I could definitely
Mhm.
feel like, oh, this is where we originated. And I think that that was so beautiful. And I wouldn't have had that experience if I had not, come to the Low Country. And I did not have such an obsession with Gullah Gullah Island, which is why I came. Because I've been obsessed with Gullah Gullah Island since I was a kid. So I wanted to see like where this heritage was that I learned about as a kid, like where it really came from. And that was really cool for me.
Come and let's play together in the bright shiny weather. Let's go to
Gullah Gullah Island.
binga binga.
Oh man,
Yeah,
it's beautiful. I saw you start this comment, Geechee. I smelled that paper mill every day driving through.
bro, that shit smell like egg, boy. It's worse. Ooh, Lord
Yeah,
Jesus.
and
But yeah,
that's why
so
sorry, go
back
ahead.
to Amber's point. Like, so yeah, so this is the piece that I'm writing. But yeah, shout out to, as Amber say, a lot of the radical Black tradition and women who was doing powerful stuff. Mary Moutry, Rosetta Simmons, Ernestine Grimes, Naomi White, Lily Mae Marsh, Dolster, and obviously Mama Septima P. Clark. While writing this, my friend Jeffrey Felding, who has a funeral home, his family has a funeral home in Charleston. I think they finally put it up, but his grand uncle is in there bashing on the organizers. He's like, we ain't got nothing to do. He was an NAACP representative. He said, we don't got nothing to do with that. We don't really get into that mix right there. We don't want nothing to do. We distance ourselves from the more radical elements. And so I had an interesting conversation with him. I was like, Jeff, what the fuck, your I thought that was his granddaddy at first. I said, what the hell? You heard this about your granddaddy? But he said he was a very interesting guy, so he wasn't surprised when, yeah, because there's always two sides of Charleston, and both of them claim to be the movement. The NAACP claimed to be the movement too, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they
But
do.
that's also why I wanted to go to like St. Helena Island and Hilton Head and stuff. And the Penn Center was so beautiful, like learning about all the groups used to come there, like how SCLC used to organize there, SNCC used to organize there. I went to go see the MLK house that they had built for MLK, but then it was finished like a few months after he was assassinated. But now people who like are radical liberationists and like writers come there to write on the water because there's no Wi-Fi, like no connection or anything. Like there's cell phone connection, but like it's like more of a disconnected space. And that was really cool to see too. And the other like video I'm making is gonna go more into like the Gullah Geechee culture and then the Penn Center stuff that I did. It's probably gonna be more videos than I thought. I was only making 2 videos so this is actually a partnership I'm doing with the South Carolina Democratic Party about South Carolina, like just highlighting South Carolina. And they had different content creators in different parts of South Carolina. So someone did something about the upstate, someone else did something about Columbia, and like policy issues that they're focused on. And then I told them I wanted to go to the Low Country. Like I definitely felt called to do that. I was like, I need to go to where like the Gullah Geechee people are. And so that was my content. And also my videos are doing better than any of the other people's right now. And it's really funny.
Oh yeah, because it's so radical. It gets to the root. Again, you
Yeah.
always have our platform here, beyond the South Carolina Democratic Party, to promote this work. Very happy. So we'll definitely show you next series as they come to the platform. What y'all were making me think about though, or as you post them, sorry, was just the relationship. I understand that we talked about the Republic of New Africa reparations earlier on, but their rallying cry is free the land. And so when I think about that, land is the basis of independence, all of those
Mm-hmm.
things, just seeing the land you show, like my immediate thought was, wow, this is a very large river. The Miami River is not as wide down here.
Yeah, it
So
was
I was
very
just
big, and
thinking
I
about
followed
that.
it down the interstate a little bit to see like how big it was. I got in the like I had took my shoes off and got in the water like for a second
Mhm.
because like there's a boat landing, so like I got in the water, and I didn't go too far because I said it might be an alligator. You never know.
Oh
Because
yeah,
Kathleen was telling me they got alligators. Also, I just want
tasty.
to say, I don't fuck with white people, but the white lady who like works with their party, who's the chair, she made the itinerary for me for all those like historical places. And then Geechee connected me to BJ, and I asked him about other places I should go and stuff. And I made sure I hit up some of those places too. It was really good. I also got some peanuts. Like they have peanut farms here, and peanuts was hidden. I ain't gonna hold you.
You got some boiled peanuts?
I didn't get the boil kind. I just got the regular ones. They ran out. The guy said they had ran out that morning. He said they run out in like a few
I'm
hours.
sure they do.
I had some ball peanuts the other day from a gas station, and I almost passed out. I was like, "Oh my gosh, bro, I gotta go home."
Yeah, they're not good. I would not be allowing Geisha to ask me any more vulnerable questions on live streams.
Oh,
No, I am.
doing it though. We
So
gonna keep
really
doing it.
quickly, did they tell you about Penn School before it was Penn Center? Because there's a very paternalistic, exploitive thing that they were doing at the Penn School. Yeah.
He told me about that. I learned about that part too because I was like, it's like when you said school, it's like a high school or college, and he was like, it was like a K through 12.
Yeah. They used to so very early on, some of the stuff that was hidden, they used to. So obviously, Gullah people wanted independence. So you remember when Sherman came down, and there's a document we can share later where the land was given to Gullah people, and then he came back down and took it. And you could see like the writing wars that they was having. It was like, what you gonna take this land, whatever. And so they developed the Penn School where they say they're gonna train the Africans to integrate into society. But what they did was they didn't obviously train them the men to be independents, and then they send the women around to white male colleges for sex work. So there was a lot of like nefarious, deep, nasty stuff about the Penn School.
That's what Dr. Adams was telling me about. Like, and then until like Robert Smalls and other people came in, and then that's when they had turned around. He gave me a book too. I will say, y'all love giving people shit. They done gave me T-shirts, books.
Huh?
I got all these cards of Amiri's art. And I got two books. One is about the history of the Penn Center, and there's another one about something Colleen, who was a midwife. It's like a history of midwifery and the midwifery in South Carolina, specifically in the Low Country. And I also agree with Bobcat. We do need a movie about Robert Smalls, like immediately, bro.
Yeah, we gotta make it. Burning philosophy. If we can make it, that Harriet movie does not do her legacy any favors.
Yeah, I never saw the Harriet movie. I'm so glad I didn't. But also somebody else asked about we need details of the trip. I just went from the Low Country further down, so I just went to Charleston, drove to Beaufort, from Beaufort to St. Helena, from St. Helena to Hilton Head, and then drove back to Charleston, which is 2 hours from Hilton Head. So you just follow the coast down to all.
So I had a question for you all. Because it even reminded me that again, free the land, like you get to smell sea breeze, but there's a paper mill that is polluting the air at the same time. And then you discussing this history reminded me, is there any discussion of like the Native American history in the region, the peoples who were there, or how if they're still around?
Yeah, there is a lot of history at Mitchellville. So they talked about the indigenous. They have a exhibit that actually is debuting today for their Juneteenth stuff that's starting, and it's about the Native American tribes that were there before, and they actually have a land acknowledgement around it. I don't know if I have a video of it, but if I do, I'll send it to you, Lord. But there's a land acknowledgement around it of the peoples who were there before, acknowledging that. Because one other really cool thing, damn, Peachy, was they were talking about how they were trying to build something a few years ago, and they found a church. And then as they were trying to build the church, when they uncovered the church, they found that before that, 200 years before that, there was a praise house there. And then they found that 500 years before that was an indigenous like altar, ancestral altar type of thing. It's like in this same exact spot, these different iterations and generations of people have built some kind of like spiritual place here in this same like circle or square foot of land, and you could see it. And that's why they preserve the Native American thing, and they have like all the different artifacts they found there and like the tribe and stuff. But that was like a huge ancestral meeting space that they had, which was basically like their version of a church for their type of religion. And then someone built a praise house there, and then an actual larger church. And I do think that that's something spiritual that guides you to the same place over and over again. 3 times over, you built, something religious focused here, and you don't know each other. Like you've never met each other, because there's hundreds of years in between each generation.
Yeah. Also, I mean, it's important to study the Gullah Wars. I don't know. It's been said that and Gullah Geechee people and indigenous people in that region fought together against the Buckras at high rates. So they were locked in together for a lot of time. So it's definitely important to study the Gullah Wars, especially in the Charleston areas and Myrtle Beach, Conway area.
Go ahead and drop that link for the people, brother.
Yeah.
Right, I can do that. Also, thank you, Wilsoni and Garvernite for $20. They said Haiti here. Stock passe to all the original men and women in the chat. Is that like a
So I met
Yeah,
with my homie Turvo last night, and he well, so when I first got to CMB, he was there. So he was with one of the first crew that left the organization. But he does a lot of work with Gullah students and does work there. And so Turvo actually wrote that. So some of that. So if anytime we want to bring him on to discuss
we should.
we will. We
Geechee
got some of show's got to come on and talk about the Geechee language. We got this.
Oh yeah, he said he down. He ready. He ready whenever.
All right,
This has definitely changed my worldview though about culture in general. So thank you for all your help,
baby. Oh, some Africans.
Which I always thought that, but I just didn't know how close the ties were. I was saying.
No, even seeing him at the culture center with the Ankh, like this is. You said it, Amber. We're disconnected from our history, which is intentionally why we have these inferiority complexes that allow an FBA and an ADOS to fester. Because if students were allowed to have connections to that history and that pride instilled in them in a young age, they wouldn't feel this kind of identity crisis that we see, or they're competing with us and all of that. I know where it comes from, but because I've had experiences like what you've had, it's just so clear to me that it's not true. I know Geechee just dropped a Sala in there. So that legacy, institutions like that preserve this kind of history are really important. So much of what you described, Amber, is similar to Miami history, where you talked about you can't even excavate certain sites because there are probably historical artifacts down here in Miami, although they love to give the crackers like Julia Tuttle and Henry Flagler the credit. Black people were the laborers that built Miami on top of land that Tequesta had already been taken care of. And so when our people were being forced to dig up the mangroves, which made the roads, that made the city even possible, so many of us were finding Tequesta artifacts because they were told that the Tequesta all died off like a mysterious disappearance, and they had no culture, and they didn't even leave any memories. And even the tour guide at the History of Miami Museum, when I went, was kind of spreading this mythology. And in reality, I know that's not true because our people, a lot of the artifacts that are in those museums came from them going to these work sites and digging up tools, digging up burial grounds, digging up religious artifacts, all of this kind of stuff. So just amazing to hear the connections there between the history I learned in Florida and then what you got to see in Carolina. And then, we got gators in both places. So again, the land.
Boy, and I was scared as a motherfucker. I said, let me not do too much.
Hey, man. You get used to it. Someone in the chat had asked earlier, let me make sure I address this. Okay, if South Carolina was under Spanish rule. Oh, come on, Alacor. You know I got my receipts. I recall being Florida was Spanish territory and Georgia was created as a buffer white state. Yes, so I'm talking about early Spanish colonialism in the 16th century, as Amber was talking about, before the U.S. was even a thing. Spanish Florida was what is now the state of Florida, but also consisted of Georgia and the Carolinas as well. So back when the Spanish had that territory, it was under their rule. So just wanted to address that. And yes, it's absolutely by design. But Professor Tamanisha, as I was mentioned before in our call about Walter Rodney, she talked about reparations and was saying that in addition to the education that we need to restore ourselves, travel should be a form of reparations for African people. And so I get to hear get really happy, Amber, when I hear that you travel places. And every single time I'm reminded of, well, of course they don't want you to connect with all of these people around the Black nation and be like, oh wait, you're going do that over here, and wait, my history is tied to this, and oh, my relatives came through there, because that'd be the other thing is when we find out we got family in these places, either
That's how I know I'm God's favorite, because he made sure I had a free trip, everything
yeah,
covered, so I can go and meet with them people. I said, I know that's right.
yep. Dre
I just
says,
have to go catch a flight. I'm sorry.
no, it's all good. I'm gonna carry on because I have a perfect transition for what you said. Thank you, Amber, for sharing this. We'll cover your series when you next update. So excited to keep that going.
Hey, say Amber, say I'll holler at y'all boy later, man.
I'll holler at y'all about later, man.
No, I'll holler at y'all boy later, man.
Trying to give
I
you the
holla.
dialect.
Oh my God, this too much.
The
Hey,
Memphis
say
ain't leaving you anymore.
Amber, say I could be back directly. I could be back directly. Say that.
I can be back directly.
I could be back directly.
I can be back directly.
All right, we'll see you later now. Hold him now. Hold him now.
I don't know. You're so funny, bro.
This is what I'm saying. Our found family, our Geechee family.
Yeah. All right. Peace, y'all.
All right.
Peace. Who was it who just raised something that I was Trey had just said? What was this? Did I lose it? About oh yeah, this cracker here. Ponce de Leon came to America in 1518. So there's so even more interesting again when we learn this history. He didn't actually land in Florida for real. As far as the main landmass is concerned. So even that's a myth that has to get told, and there's actually a bunch of Florida historians that have disputed that because when you look at his travel logs and his records, he landed off the coast of Florida, but as far as the landmass and the fountain of youth and all that bullshit, complete mythology. And what I like to talk about is he sure did, and he's also all over Puerto Rico's history, but he got packed up by the Calusa Indians off the coast because they weren't playing games. So if you ever hear about the tragic death of Ponce de Leon, that's because them Calusa put that boy in a box. So just love to tell the end of that story because it has a
smoking
happy
on
ending.
a Ponce pack. My boy smoking on a Ponce pack.
They sure are. They sure were around the tribal campfire, I'm sure. Packed them up. Yeah, he was like, oh, these people different. When he talked about the Tainos, he talks about how they're or Columbus talks about how they're so friendly and all of that. Ponce de Leon found out they ain't that friendly when you act that way. So, and yeah, this is actually even more interesting history. There was a black, an African Spaniard. So he was from Africa, I think enslaved in Spain, called Estebanico the Moor. And so that was actually the person who explored Florida, specifically what is now St. Augustine. So he has also an interesting history, a cool story, because he made his way all the way to what is now Texas and Mexico. But his story also has a tragic ending where he trusted some crackers and he definitely should not have. So definitely worth exploring that. We got a few more stories. We might go into a little overtime, Geechee, if you got time for it today.
Yeah,
but
get on my bike right afterwards.
Word. I wanted to talk since we're talking Combahee, and it's been coming up again. And the white left has found their way into our channels, man. It's annoying. It's annoying. Moderators, I'm sure you all know. But we had this bad empanada fucking folks who found us after the Jared conversation, and they've been in the chat telling us gotta go check out bad empanada videos. And I had American Communist Party folks in the chat, and then we brought Gabriel Rockhill over here. So all the white leftists been making their way. The white online leftists. I don't want to do the white left like that. If you feel doing good work, if you helping put together itineraries for people like Amber, but yeah, the white left isn't having some time. So similar to woke, I have this trigger around identity politics. Shout out Ricky, identity reductionism, if you want to say that. If you want to say liberal identity politics, I'm cool with it. But I don't like when folks use identity politics as a negative or pejoratively, similar to how white people stole woke. And then you have black people on the quote unquote left who start saying woke like white people do. And I'm like, since when do we let them steal our slang? Like, that shit is crazy to think about. So I wanted to, since Amber just talked about the Combahee River Collective statement, highlight the fact that most people do not read this. They've never heard of it. They don't read it. And then when they see this, they don't even know what it's referencing. So, as we just said, Combahee River Raid was by an African woman who fought against enslavers to guide her people to freedom. She was a spy, as they're pointing out. She picked up the gun. She was a navigator. And another part of her identity is that she was disabled. And I think that part is important to highlight. So it's believed that her condition was epilepsy, but she suffered a traumatic brain injury when her slave master struck her in the head when she was about 6 years old. And so all of those elements together are what make up Harriet Tubman. And when I think about that, I think that it was intentional. I know that it was intentional that the Combahee River Collective named themselves after that legacy. Now, what I'll say is you have to do an intellectual genealogy of the Combahee River Collective. What did they do? Who are their members? What are their politics? Because what will usually happen pretty lazily is that people will point out that there are some liberal elements of the Combahee River Collective. There absolutely are. So one of the sisters who founded it, Demetra Frazier, has talked about working with the CIA before. Huge issue. Sister Barbara Smith has some liberal Zionist takes that we do not approve of, that put her historically at odds with other Black feminists like June Jordan. So we have to remember these things. But at the same time, there are other sisters who were part of this that did not follow that trajectory. But the main thing I like to talk about is just the theory itself. I don't want to spend too much time on it since I think there's some other stuff we can cover today, and I want to give this a full treatment. But I do like to point out the parts of this statement that most people have not seen, don't read, that are very revolutionary. And it talks to Amber's whole point about how Black women's scholarship is not taken seriously, it's ignored, it's forgotten. And so I just see the way identity politics has been co-opted and used pejoratively as another example of that. So first of all, knowing the Combahee River Raid in the first place lets you know the politics that they claim that they're following. So I think that's already the thing we have to talk about. They begin by identifying themselves as Black feminists, but I also like to point out the part that, hey, right now we have conservative leftists who like to ignore this, and we also have liberal feminists who like to ignore this. But we realize that the liberation of all oppressed people necessitates the destruction of the political economic systems of capitalism and imperialism, as well as patriarchy. We are socialists because we believe that work must be organized for the collective benefit of those who do the work and create the products, and not for the profit of the bosses.
There goes your simple definition right there.
Exactly, Geechee. So you have to understand that I've been going through psychosis as I see so many people talk about identity politics and not know the origin of the term. This is where identity politics comes from. It is a historical materialist framework for understanding how your identity is connected to these larger structures like capitalism, patriarchy, imperialism, white supremacy, and so on. So when we talk about liberal intersectionality theory, where it talks about your identity in certain ways, that is not the same framework as identity politics. So when we talk about Harriet Tubman being a disabled woman, that to me is a layer of her identity through which she can struggle, through which she can understand her connection to imperialism, capitalism, and patriarchy. So when I saw identity politics and looked at the disability as a form of identity politics, I think of shout out Crip Hop Nation, who comes on this platform and has done great work, and we can continue to support his work. I also think of this text called Capitalism and Disability, which specifically talks about how disability was constructed, how benefits are designed, how workplaces are designed as inaccessible, and how if they had to accommodate different forms of ability, like being able to sit down at the workplace, for example. It would completely transform the ruthless efficiency practices that they force us to under capitalism. So all of those things are how I come to understand identity politics. Even to James Baldwin's quote that I is one of my favorites ever. When I think of the essence of identity politics, I come to this, where he says, "You think your pain and
I want to go back to two quotes finish from there.
Sure. And let me see.
Go ahead and finish that one.
No, cool. Let's please, because let's get into it. This is one of my favorite James Baldwin quote, other than God gave Noah the rainbow sign, no more water the fire next time. That one's just too hard. But you must understand that your pain is trivial, except insofar as you can use it to connect with other people's pain. And insofar as you can do that with your pain, you can be released from it. And then hopefully it works the other way around too. Insofar as I can tell you what it is to suffer, perhaps I can help you to suffer less. So when I hear identity politics in its revolutionary origins, that is what I think of. You understand your pain, you understand your individual identities, forms of oppression, and you use historical materialism to understand why does it happen that way? How is this identity constructed? And then how do we overturn that oppression? But unfortunately, and thank you, Maggie, it's Capitalism and Disability by Marta Russell. That is not how that term has been used. And again, I will stress, people have not read the Combahee River Collective Statement. But go ahead, Geechee. I know you had some quotes.
Yeah, if you can go back to that Combahee joint, where you was at, there's a quote, and then at the top there was a quote.
Yep.
So I think it's important, right? So a lot of times, again, I said before, like they're quote unquote online revolutionaries who are grifters. When they said that socialism is not something that we do internally, it's something that governments enforce on you. These sisters said material resources must be equally distributed among those who create those resources. So anybody that you know that got high budgets or high money in their revolutionary organization, they didn't get the money because of them and their personality. They're not fundraisers. They get the money because people believe that the people on the ground are doing the work. And the people on the ground who are doing the work also should be in control of how the resources distribute, not one grifter at the top. We are convinced, however, that a socialist revolution that is not also feminist and anti-racist revolution will guarantee our liberation. So again, that same person also once said in public that they like to select leaders, female leaders, because they're easier to control. And so again, if you don't have feminism in your practice, you're not going to be any revolutionary, whatever. But again, you can quote those people because you see them online, but you don't see them in community. But go up to the top. There's something important. So 3
at the beginning,
years, 3 years after their formation, they wrote this statement.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this is, I think this is really important, right? And it's humbling. We are a collective of Black feminists who have been meeting together since 1974. During that time, we have been involved in the process of defining and clarifying our politics, while at the same time doing political work within our own group and in coalitions with other progressive organizations and movements. I remember being in a room with a couple organizations, and one of the organizations, which they kind of end up being a flop too, but they talked about before they did some work, they studied a lot. And then they studied for a year or so before they went and do work. And some of the organizations who are more decorated was kind of scoffing at that. And although they say they have PE programs, their work is very reactionary and not consistent. And I presuppose that possibly because they don't study, right? For instance, I remember being in a room with multiple organizations who all had the Cop City experience, but none of them talked to each other, and they had different analysis and different ideas of what direct action is. And so a lot of times when these movements disperse, you think it's suppression, but really it's disorganizations and sometimes, opportunists. And so these women and the people before them and the people who follow after them, they kind of clearly show you how important, if you're going to do anything materially about the material benefits or the conditions of people, the structure should be very clear, constantly studying, constantly evolving so that it can meet the needs of the people. And you can clearly see in 3 years later, when they even writing this statement, how intentional they are about the work and why we're still talking about them today.
Mm-hmm. I want to address this statement because, again, it's already being addressed here, but I do want to struggle through it. There is one reactionary part of this analysis that I will address, the Combahee River Collective, because they do have a statement here that does actually lend credit to this kind of critique. Identity politics also breeds separatism and privilege supremacy. I don't think so, though. I think if you read this honestly, there's no way to say that. But there is a reactionary part of this that kind of gets into that. I don't agree, because they make it very plain here. If we look at what's on the screen, the most general statement of our politics at this present time would be that we are actively committed to struggling against racial, sexual, heterosexual, and class oppression, and see our particular task as the development of an integrated analysis and practice based upon the fact that the major systems of oppression are interlocking. That statement on its own goes dialectically to the opposite of what this is saying. How can you breed separatism and privilege supremacy when the goal is to develop an integrated analysis and practice of the major systems of oppression, right? So I don't think that's true. I disagree completely. And what actually gets highlighted here, why I'm pointing out why dialectics are so important to analyzing the Combahee River Collective and how you have to actually read this statement and struggle through it. Not read it as a last minute thing, because if you see Norm Finkelstein, after he did his cracker shit on here, and wrote a whole book about identity politics that he'd never read this shit before, got called on air on the Katie Halper show with Barbara Smith and Robin D.G. Kelly to try and talk about this thing. And he was just like being a white man, like, I don't care. Like, oh, I wasn't talking to y'all. Oh, that little shit, whatever. As Geechee's pointing out, 3 years of study and struggle. Norm Finkelstein don't care, bro. It don't matter to him. He just wrote his book because he was talking about you. He wanted to get his shit off on Ibram Kendi. But this is what I'm saying. So you have a white left that does not take our scholarship seriously, that will 100%, all Black scholarship in general is revolutionary, but particularly we can talk about Black women's scholarship. They ain't reading that shit. And then you also have a liberal right that likes to claim this legacy too. So you have a white left that diminishes this, that takes identity politics, like colonizers co-ops the term, misuses it. And then you have a liberal right that is going to take this and talk about all the elements of these folks' identity except for their socialism. So if you go on the Wikipedia page, I don't know, you can check edit history, but back in 2020, when I was on the Combahee River Collective's Wikipedia page, I'm 99% sure, my memory of that time is hazy, forgive me, I'm the one who added socialist to that Wikipedia page, because what it said was they were a queer, lesbian, feminist organization. And while all of those elements are true, when you leave out the socialism, you're cutting a massive part of its revolutionary edge. So do not be like the white leftists that dismiss this out of hand, and don't be like liberals who want to ignore the Marxism and socialism in this statement. You can't do either. You have to be dialectical and do both.
So I this is why I love Dre, right? White leftist is a probably more fitting term because it tells you that these are tactical people engaged in rhetorical ethic. These are white people. Whiteness, to put on whiteness is to take off your humanity. So there's no such thing as a white left, because they don't connect, right? There's European left and there's whoever, whatever. But once people put on whiteness, they take off their humanity. And I do like white leftists because, again, they try to cosplay black politics, but they only do it to do whatever sheepdog or whatever tactics they have. So shout out to Dre for
I feel that. I do. This is an interesting one because I do think white people's goal is to commit national and class suicide, as has been discussed, like by Kwame Ture and folks like that. I struggle.
People though.
Yeah, so I struggle with that. I hear y'all though. I do think whiteness as that identity has to be addressed, but also if you exist as a settler on stolen land, you are going to be white, right? So while you're actively trying to destroy that,
eventually you're going to be white,
right? I do. So here's I was just going to talk about what I think is an example of identity politics but done in terms of whiteness in a revolutionary way. So this is from Revolutionary Elder David Gilbert, looking at the white working class historically. It's a very short book. David Gilbert was a political prisoner from the Weather Underground. I highly recommend people check it out. It's an excellent work, and it talks about the white identity, and he looks at 3 different works. He looks at W.E.B. Du Bois's Black Reconstruction. I'm sorry. So he analyzes Du Bois's look at the white working class. He looks at Theodore Allen's work, which has been highlighted on here from the late scholar Jeffrey Perry. And then he looks at J. Sakai's work in The Settlers. And he gives a brief review of all 3 and then talks about what he thinks about the white working class from there. And there was an update in 2017 where he talks about Donald Trump. And so I find this book amazing. Again, very short, very accessible. But when we talk about what Dre was talking about, what you just mentioned with the white identity and looking at it through a historical materialist lens, I tend to look at it this way, where we have to analyze whiteness and all of that. Yeah.
And I don't think what you're saying contradicts at all, because there is a white working class. In fact, most of white people are working class, and that's the fallacy of capitalism and the whatever. But whiteness in itself is just the problem. So yeah, most white people are workless. Most people who put on whiteness are working class. So that again, that told you about the class dynamics within whiteness. So white working class and white leftists. White working class is a logical thing, but white leftists is like
you're right. Yeah, and that makes sense. And I just wanted to highlight that for people, because even when I first heard like whiteness is made up or that kind of thing, I just thinking back to my younger self was confused. And so walking me through that was just part of it. So I just wanted to offer that for the audience as well. But I completely agree. And what I appreciate about David Gilbert, as someone who I think is in that process of committing national and class suicide as a white man, is he's pretty agnostic about whether the white working class in the U.S. can be redeemed or saved or turned into a revolutionary force in mass. He actually isn't. So that's another issue with quote unquote white leftists, is that they have this evangelical almost impulse to save the entire white working class and to prove that it's not reactionary as a class. And when he's analyzing Sakai and Allen and Du Bois, Gilbert's just like, as a revolutionary, which is I really respect, he's like, oh, okay, maybe it's true. If this is true, how do we move? And that's what I think what you all were talking about, Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win earlier this week. Like, let's imagine it's true. They talked about this yesterday. Let's imagine a certain premise is true. Okay, what is our responsibility as revolutionaries? And so Gilbert is not in there trying to be like, no, actually, they're wrong. The white working class is a revolutionary force. We just have to change them, whatever. He's like, no, maybe it'll only be a minority of white working class people who turn into full revolutionary consciousness. If that is the case, how do we find those people? How do we build organizations that can capture and hold those people's talents? And then how do we replicate that process to make it as successful as possible? And I think that's the only question we need to be asking, not so much if the white left, quote unquote, are worth saving or inherently revolutionary or whatever.
So I'm my last conversation with a few people from Black Men Build, not you. I don't know if I fully, and this could be your personal and your answer for them, but I don't know if I fully like felt good about their response to labor, right? So I'm curious, when you think about working class, do you feel like, well, I'm trying to ask a broad question, like how do you feel like our work and what we're going to do and what we're trying to do, like how does the labor movement relate to that? Now, again, remember, I know the labor movement is weak as shit. And I mean, there's unions all up in New York. There's no unions down here. My cousin just told me about how it's not possible to unionize Grady. But yeah, I'm curious how you see the labor movement now and how we need to engage the labor movement. That's a better question.
Yeah, I don't have I am not a labor organizer. Some of my comrades and my brother are or have been. So I do tend to defer to their expertise when it comes to actual union organizing. What I will say is, if we're speaking on Black Men Bill's behalf, I'll let us speak for ourselves. Check out the Theory Thursdays where we talk about labor. There's multiple ones. And then what I was going to shout out today was Chris Smalls, because that was the first interview I ever did with Friday Remix last August. And so we can maybe close out on the hit piece.
The hit piece, that shit
that
was
they put.
nasty.
That's how we'll close this.
I'm not surprised by them niggas.
But Chris Smalls had some takes on labor. I was able to interview him in person last year too, so that was an honor after this interview online. And I mean, we need a revolutionary internationalist labor movement, right? And that's just been destroyed through many years. You know, Dr. CBS, Black Scare, Red Scare. There's so many things that discuss that. So I guess my question is, well, how do we get the labor movements that do what they're supposed to do? Chris Small's answer was that the current labor union density is piss poor in America, even so much so that he shouts out European unions as an example of saying that they have more density than us. I don't know if that's the model we should move toward, but he just tries to point it out. And so his major point is that, you're going to have to just start a union at your workplace, unsanctioned ones, ones that aren't in the AFL or, NCLB purview. And then from there, you'll build power, and eventually, you might be able to negotiate with those major state agencies around labor. But I think I'm in alignment, right? Like how labor looks now under the gig economy, how Uber and Instacart drivers have to move. I think they're going to have to come up with something that does what a union does, which is represent their interests and has the ability to actually strike at their employers. I don't know what that exactly looks like. That's why I look to someone like Chris, and when he talks about what they did with Amazon, and he talks about Bessemer, Alabama, and why it wasn't successful. So I try and look at it that way. But my short answer is unions have to actually be internationalist, right? And I know we're going to have our I Love Boosters review soon enough to talk about those kinds of things. Unions have to actually be able to do their main function, which is strike. And unions have to be tied into the larger social movement, which is all of these movements against police brutality, for housing, for all of the stuff that we talk about. And I take that analysis largely from Detroit Revolutionary Union movement, Dodge Revolutionary Union movement, the Detroit auto workers, that era of struggle. So I don't really have much more than that. The unions that exist right now don't do that. That's what sucks. I remember my Florida teachers union growing up, the teachers in my 8th grade class all wore blue one day. And all the students were like, why are you wearing blue? And they're like, we're doing this to protest what the state has done around teachers in Florida. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And they're like, yeah, we're part of the Florida Teachers Union, and this is how we're fighting these new Common Core standards. And I'm like, oh, all right, bet. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I was 13. I'm like, what the fuck does that do? Like, how is that going to do anything? They're going to see you wearing blue and be like, oh God. So the first thing I learned is that the Florida's Teachers Union cannot strike. And so immediately I'm just like, that's not a fucking union. You call yourself a union. You'll have some of the trappings of what would be a union, but fundamentally you are not a union. So you do not have any labor power. So that would be my answer. How do you build labor power? You have to be able to strike. And if you cannot do that, then your union is not a union. Get out of it.
Like, I mean, I know there's like drastically more workers than small business owners and entrepreneurs, but E. Franklin Frazier only talked about the labor movement a little bit, how the bourgeois and the middle class people kind of took over, or their postures or policies towards the labor movement. But the World of Make-Believe chapter, I'm very curious how people tie what the world of make-believe and rugged individualism has done to any gleaming of a labor movement. Like, it's kind of like all the niggas, even who working, they got their side hustle, and they one day they're gonna sell enough rice cakes to stop working. I don't know. But so yeah, I in the coming months, especially with Morehouse, we will be having some conversations around labor. And yeah, we're gonna definitely bring Black Men Bill on there. But I got a random weird question. So I would ride my bike in Pittsburgh neighborhood versus riding my bike in Dunwoody. In Pittsburgh neighborhood, I'm asking this, I want you the first thing to come in your mind, what you say. In Pittsburgh neighborhood, predominantly Black, when people graduate, their parents in their yard put congratulations so-and-so. In Dunwoody neighborhood, before you even get in the white neighborhood, on the front of this big ass banner, and it's all the students' name. When you see those two things, what's the first thing comes to your mind?
So,
So
one
one
is
guy,
just a banner that just says
yeah, one,
congratulations.
yeah, and maybe like 5 different houses got congratulations to their kid. In Dunwoody, it's a big banner at the head of the neighborhood that says all the damn kids.
Yes, Geechee, I just had this discussion because I was in a meeting. I won't name with who, but it was a lot of kind of liberal, organizations, as we were talking about with the movement before. And we tried to do "Who Do You Love," which Black Men Bill does during mass call. And so when you say "Who do you love," a lot of people say, their family. But because of our politicization, you get a lot of people who say, and someone who's incarcerated, or somebody who's in their neighborhood. People who aren't just like my wife, my kids, my mom, right? And so on that call, what struck me was everybody was basically like my mom, my husband, my kids, my mom, my husband, my kids, my mom, my husband, my kids. And I was just like, yo, I love the Black unhoused community. I love Pastor V, who I used to share meals with. That's who I love. Like, not to just be some more revolutionary than thou, but I'm like, damn, all we love is our nuclear family. Like, that's it for this whole, it was like 30 people. So that's
Ones that
what that
pick it.
made me think of, Geechee. Yes, bro. Everyone, like you said on Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win this week, how do we make this reaction the reaction you have for everybody's kid, even if it's not yours by blood? And that's part of it. And again, to my critiques of the church notwithstanding, like that is one of the things that they do. They had a graduation service, and everybody who graduated is getting recognition and is getting brought up, and they get to do their praise dance and their celebration on stage. So I feel exactly like that, Geechee. Brother Baba Imam Jamil says revolutionary Black nationalism is meant to oppose capitalist individualism, right? So I'm all for anything that makes us think of the collective, celebrating everybody at once, not just, oh, your individual achievements, your little kids here. Because that's, like you said, that's part of the world of make believe. And then when they make these collectives, it still operates on the same logic, like Jack and Jill, where it's supposed to be collective, but it really is about your individual family getting this kind of recognition to get into whatever elite spaces that they're trying to deal with. It's not about a collective organization for empowerment of celebrating everybody. So yeah. Oh, so someone said Jack and Jill. I don't know if that was before me or after me, but that's the perfect, yeah.
You women, you woman, you. I immediately thought, I was like, oh, were you in that neighborhood, or did your parents move there after you grow up? Because I was trying to find a way. I was like, you know what, I want to do like a quick documentary and ask the kids like their experience growing up in that neighborhood. Like if all those parents got together and do that, then that mean they meet regularly. Like there's a series board, and they make other plans for the damn neighborhood. And so I'm curious how the kids feel in that neighborhood. Like, but I don't know how to ask them, because they probably go ask me what my political spin is and why you interviewing my child.
Why you asking? Yep.
I ain't gonna be able to do it, but I'll be curious to see.
And youth don't move this way, mind you. Like I just want to point that out. Like the youth that I work around, who I met with when I was a youth, they are very collectivist. That'd be the whole other thing. Like they have to be conditioned to be this hyper competitive. Oh, I got into this school and you didn't. Bullshit. Like generally, that is how they move. They celebrate everybody. They're cool. Like, oh, my friends graduated. Oh, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna make our tassels and our cap match each other? Right? That's the kind of stuff that gets discouraged even. Like just little things on graduation where people want to make their hat read something. So like you have a letter, your friend has a letter, boom, 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 down the line. And it might tell a joke, it might say 6, 7, who cares, right? The point is it's a collectivist impulse. And I've even seen that been punished and like disciplined away from people so that they can't celebrate collectively. So it's just like, no, put your individual message on your cap and gown and let everybody else do their thing, and you wear your cords and they can't wear the cord because they weren't in the group with you, or they didn't meet a certain number of meetings or hours or some bullshit. So
I'll be trying not to have conversations with these people in the chat, but because it's weird. Like I be saying one thing. So for instance, if you do a documentary and you interview kids, you would have to check in with their parents. And if you tell the parents you're doing a documentary, they're gonna ask about the documentary. Do you think you wouldn't have to tell a white organized community who posts a sign up? You think you wouldn't have to tell them what you're doing with filming their kids? If they're organized enough to put all their kids on the banner, you think they wouldn't care about who's filming their kids and what they're talking about. So I don't know your experience, but that was interesting. But the other thing that the other thing that I thought about was, and I'm losing my train of thought. Oh yeah. I was gonna ask I would ask them, because you know how like sometimes we said back in the old days, all the parents care about you. And kind of what you said, what I said in Baltimore. I would love to know if like they feel, now obviously resources is different. If the kids feel like any one of the neighbors will know their name. Hey, Kevin, congratulations. I know you did good. Like, I wonder if they, because what comes with that too is like, yeah, your dad told me you want to get into autumn candy. You can come work at the shop. And then, all of a sudden, they got resources that you can share in the community versus like you can come get a plate, which is still good. But yeah, those are things that.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's literally so. When I moved from my black neighborhood down here to the burbs right before I was a teenager, like for middle school, I noticed that it was just a change. Granted, my parents did what everyone does, find the only black people in your area or whatever and connect with them. But my old neighborhood, it was very much like that, Ichi. It was just like that. But once I got around a mixed but mostly white community, it wasn't like that anymore. So I completely agree. Like I would have talked to Miss Dot, and she would have known that I graduated, and she would have given me, some money. I want to talk to Miss Ori up the street, maybe bake me a cake, that kind of thing. But no, once you're in the burbs, absolutely not. Like that's just not how that energy works at all. Or some of it does, but again, it's like done in a very bougie way. To this comment, B. Sharice Moore, I facilitated youth work, yep, same as my experience, for one of those types of orgs, and the parents were far more elitist than their children. The children were incredible. Absolutely. Just like gender norms that we talk about, capitalist individualism is something that people are disciplined into. They are not naturally like this, because we always hear those human nature arguments whenever we talk about this stuff. Like, nah, I don't agree. I know we're getting into some of the overtime, but I did want us to maybe close on the hit piece they put out on our brother. So as we said, Remix alumni Chris Smalls, union organizer, recently brutalized by the infamous NYPD for making Jeff Bezos mad at the Met Gala. And there was an article put out by, as we said, what does Horace say? Our friends on the left. In Search of a Beautiful Struggle also says the left, but I think they're talking about the whites. So Annie Levin put out this story on Jacobin about the rise and fall of.
Well, just start with the Jacobin. Just start there.
Let's start with Jacobin. That is true. Although again, because it's just how the political economy works. A lot of baby leftists, baby socialists. I was like, oh, what's a big socialism thing? And then Jacobin comes up in my Google search. So I found myself here, but then very quickly started seeing some of these limitations. So for those who are just starting out, you might see Jacobin. You might get some useful articles. Maybe this article, Israel's Young Settler Vanguard, maybe it's more helpful. I don't know. But there are contradictions. So Chris Small shot to prominence for playing a key role in the shock union win at New York Amazon warehouse. He was charismatic and energetic at a time labor needed both. But in the years since, his own ego has overwhelmed his political contributions. That's a bold statement. I sure hope this person is an organizer, spoiler, no, to be making such an assessment about a struggle. But without getting too much into the article, y'all can read it yourself. Again, links is in the show description. I did think there were two things that were very telling in this article. So this is how I was just like, listen, I read the whole thing, but just highlight here if you want to show people this trash. So
he went outside the gate that they tried to give him.
Exactly. So what is he doing that contributes to his fall? Oh my
goodness.
You
ain't supposed to be over there. Get on this side of the gate, Chris. This side.
Did he betray his workers? Did he cross a picket line? Did he sell out classified union information ahead of an action? No. Here's what he did, Gichi. And while Smiles uses his platform to draw labor organizing into the popular imagination, he also uses it to lash out at labor's allies. Oh, who are labor's allies? His feed on X has increasingly become left sectarian and self-promoting, lashing out at left-wing politicians when they fail to give him attention he desires. Politicians like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Zionist Senator Bernie Sanders, who helped boost Small's platform from the beginning and have been great allies of the ALU, have been frequent victims of his wrath. Oh no. Oh man, this is the fall of Chris Smalls because
the memoir was a critique of the American labor movement and its collaboration with the Democrat Party. Duh. Like, what's wrong with that? Like, I mean,
it's bad, man. Jacobin told you it's bad, bro. Come on, man.
now,
Smalls praises European Union supported by communist parties. The horror. We need more Operation Gladio. Wipe him out. Why are they still here? And bitterly compares high-density sectoral unions in Europe with the United States shrinking unionized labor force. He blames the two-party system for the state of the American labor movement and concludes vaguely that the solution to this problem is to build internationally. Vaguely, like going to Palestine, which this article critiques as well as a publicity stunt. In the final chapter, he compares himself to Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, and Fred Hampton. The person clearly thinks that's negative. He writes that these figures, he is putting his life on the line to disrupt the status quo. My goal is to rewrite history, period, nothing less. And I know that I may be writing history that I might not be here to see. Apparently, according to Annie Levin of Jacobin Magazine, this is a bad thing for a union organizer.
So here's the thing that's really difficult for me. Like, one, there just be a bunch of random people online. And then two, like sometimes people inbox you and ask you questions about people. And most of y'all don't know these people. Most of y'all don't interact with these people. And you're reading different stuff. But even when you interact with them, sometimes you're like, Chris has been adjacent. I've interacted with him a couple of times, but I don't know the people that was in that initial union before they connected with Teamsters. And if they got gripes or internal conflict, I don't know about that. I wouldn't know about that. But I do know Chris has constantly becoming politicized over time. He wasn't as politicized at the beginning. I think people fail to forget that New York is a highly union conscious environment right now. I'm not saying radical union because there's conservative unions as well. And there's a bunch of tenants because there's still a lot of public housing. So like New York has, just talking to my cousin in Throsnext, like some of the things that she say about her work and in the building, you would think like, oh, she's an organizer, but those are just as regular conversations that they have. And so Chris went from that to like being more and more and more politicized as time grow. And as we said, like, because he pushed the AOC gate over and just kept walking over there to the left, like that's why these liberal buckers want to do a hit piece in their radical dress.
Yes. I think this article also talks about him lashing out at AOC for doing things like checks notes, trying to claim that she helped get him out of jail when she did it. So he was called sectarian and divisive because he said that woman did not help me get out of jail. A fact, a verifiable fact. So anyway,
basically what we're saying is y'all need to get out this chat and write more because this is what the fuck we got right now. These are the writers. Like, so y'all go ahead and start writing some shit.
Go ahead, right. Actually, Chidimaka has some articles.
She be writing.
Substat. Check her out. Check out the work. I know we are deep in the overtime. I'm not a streamer like Carlos. I know you are either, although you've done the EYL marathons before. So thanks to y'all who stuck around with us. We appreciate it. Definitely want to revisit the identity politics conversation in the future because there's just more that I think we'll just do a full reading on that. But again, got to know the revolutionary origins of these terms. Again, woke having origins in things like the Garvey movement, identity politics having origins in Black feminist socialist theory. All of this is very important for us. And then again, find some good news sources. I see a few in the chat. Shout out Pambazuka News. Shout out Black Agenda Report, Wall Street on Parade, Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, things like that. Some good journalism that we appreciate. Geopolitical Economy Report, Calsatcha News with Camilla, who was also on here a while back. So there's a lot of sources out here if you want to get off the Jacobin train.
Yeah.
See, you have one comment from Dre, and then you want to close this out. Yeah, AOCIA is definitely the best one. AOCIA.
You can still read Jacobins, but what you need to do is critique everything that do some counter pieces. Let them get the little stuff off, but do some counter pieces.
Yeah, definitely. And contribute to Black Agenda Report. If you can't donate financially, we already know y'all to support Black Liberation Media, right? So we know that Black buying power has to be spread out.
Or start your own Substack. Do something. Hood Communists.
Do some Hood Communists is taking submissions. But yeah, don't be too nervous. If you need help from comrades, you got comrades at those publications who I'm sure would give you some editorial direction. They're not just going to have you out here publishing with no oversight. So that was that. Geechee, what you got going on for the people?
I'm gonna just get into some. So we got a big meeting coming up for the Pittsburgh neighborhood. We're trying to take over a city-owned building that they ain't doing shit at. They ain't cleaning up. They ain't doing nothing. And so we're trying to figure out what people want to do with it. There's a Beltline meeting that we're gonna go to where they're still trying to have this. Even the board, like I'm looking at Texas, they're talking about, I can drive to Reynoldstown and do this. So there's a couple things, the Beltline, and then the meeting around some property that the city is abandoning. Then I got to get ready for travel next week, going to not New Orleans. Where I'm going? St. Louis with ML. Going to be speaking in the prison there, doing some writing with some dope Black women in Mississippi. And yeah, I'm just trying to recoup and be around people I love and love me back. That's what I'm gonna be doing. What about you?
So Mega asked, when is the Beltline meeting?
I'll send it to your inbox. And I don't know if it's specifically it's the opening of the South Side Beltline Trail in Pittsburgh Yards. I mean, I guess everybody can come, but I know the surrounding people gonna be there. But yeah, it'll I'll get you the dates and send it to you.
Word. Miami, we got the Liberty City Book Fair coming up. I mentioned it last time, and I got to connect with that brother in the documentary to talk about it. But I got on one of the shirts right here, Read, with the Africa and the R. So if you're in Miami, go to Liberty City Book Fair. There's a lot of Juneteenth programming going on. We have been roller skating at Charles Hadley, which Black Men Build and some other community partners were able to help repaint for the children. So you can go to skate, you can go to the cookout, you can go get some political education. A lot's going on Juneteenth weekend. So I just want to check that out. I want y'all to check that out if you're in Miami. Check out Black Men Build nationally, see where we're at in your local community. And then also, shameless self-promotion, the Black Atheist Traditions, a series that we're finally getting on schedule with Jared. Check out the last episode if you haven't. But also,
ain't no atheist, man. Stop that, man.
Hey,
Stop
man. Hey,
Go
man.
to the praise house.
Hey, man.
Go
ahead and check us out where we get into those kinds of discussions. And we're going to be joined by Dr. Layla Brown next week. So I'm super excited about that.
Wait, do she identify as atheist?
We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. If you want the answer, you got to tune
African spirituality or something. I must be lost. Okay.
Tune in next Thursday and we'll get into it. We'll get into it. So that's what I got. June 18th. Oh my
gosh. What the fuck? That's the weirdest bike I ever seen, and I want one. Y'all probably can't. It's probably too late. You can't see it. What I do? You can see them? You can't see it?
I can't. Now I see a car. It looks like a nice Challenger down there.
What the fuck is that?
Oh, man. All right. We are definitely late in the remix. Appreciate y'all. As Jared says, as Chairman Fred Hampton said, and you can check out all of our platform things. Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. was on Disrupt the Chaos earlier this week. Peace, only if you're willing to fight for it. And we will catch you next time on
Spread
Remix
love and reefer seeds and TSC
Black
drinks.
Liberation Media and do all the things. Peace.
Black Liberation Media is a collective of Black and African organizers, journalists, academics, and media personalities serving Black and African masses seeking to further grow in their understanding of themselves, their histories, and the African world through entertainment and news. Please continue to like, subscribe, and donate to the channel so we can further serve you and liberate our people. You can also go to blkliberationmedia.org, get some merchandise, and also become a Patreon member and a member from the YouTube. Please do what you can, share, and show your love as we will show ours for you. Black Liberation Media.